Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Premier Sim Gaming League's YouTube channel for round number 7 of the PSGL PC F1 season. Today, the drivers are headed to the historic and very tricky Suzuka circuit in Japan. My name is Dan Field, and I'll be taking you through the action, but I'm not alone today. I'm being joined by the wonderful Jack Canan. And Jack, how are you feeling about today?
Very, very excited because we were discussing just before the lobby got underway, Dan, that this is probably the strongest grid so far this season. We've got the entire F1 esports grid in tonight for the Japanese Grand Prix, which hasn't made an appearance since the first season of PSGL PC, which is back in season 27, season 28. So it's been a long time since we've seen Suzuka, and it's always a fun circuit to watch. And I'm interested to see how everything falls today, because championship, we've got 4 rounds remaining. Barry's in the lead by 16 points, so a full race advantage. So for Lucas Blakely, for guys like Freddie Rasmussen, Jarno Wotmir, this is a must-win today.
Absolutely, of course. We'll have a look at our results from last week, which was won by yours truly, Barry Burremand in the McLaren car. He's been so impressive so far this season, now has stretched his advantage to over a win against his rivals. Freddie Rasmussen ended up on the podium in second, and then Jarno Wotmir ended third. Tomek Paragic, after a penalty removal, was bumped up to fourth, and a strong day for Danny Berejnay put him in fifth. Wilson Hughes came home for a solid 6th place, and then Marcel Kiefer kept his point scoring alive with 7th place. Brendan Lee ended up 8th, 9th for Ruben Pedreño, and then Lucas Blakely relegated down to 10th after an unfortunate illegal pit entry that saw him add about 5 seconds, I believe it is, to his total race time, dropping him from around about 5th place, if I'm not mistaken, all the way down in to 10th, still on the point scoring sheet. Let's have a look at how this has affected our championship standings. And the McLaren drivers are still out in front, 1 and 2. Barry Burremand on 67 points. Lucas Blakely on 51. Freddie Rasmussen has been able to catch the Scotsman, and now he's just 10 points back in third. Jarno Wotmir in fourth with 38 points, and Brendan Lee is up into fifth. Danny Berejnay into 6th with 24 points, and Marcel Kiefer in 7th. 8th for Wilson Hughes, and Thomas Ronhard, despite missing the last few rounds due to being on holiday, in 9th. And then Fabrizio Donoso rounding out the top 10. And in terms of the constructors' standings, of course, the McLaren duo out on top by some stretch, and it's going to be very difficult for the likes of Red Bull and Ferrari to catch up. They're on 118 points, Red Bull in second with 64, and then Scuderia Ferrari with 46. Mercedes AMG have got all of their points from Jarno Wotmir, and they sit in 4th, 5th for Alfa Romeo, 6th for Alpine, Haas in 7th, Williams are in 8th, 9th is AlphaTauri, and then yet to get off the mark, despite being 6 rounds into the championship so far, Aston Martin with 0 points in 10th. Still a very close championship fight at the moment. Barry Burrmand's not completely out of the water, but you wouldn't be the dumbest man alive to put Barry Burrmand as ending Jarno Wotmir's dominance in PSGL.
No, you certainly wouldn't. But Barry has had the championship taken away from him on so many occasions over the PSGL seasons. You remember back to the first season, which was between himself and Jarno. That came down to the final round as well. So Barry is being consistent. He's got a 16-point advantage over his teammate Lucas Blakely. So that is exactly what he needs. Now for Jarno as well, now his advantage or disadvantage, whatever you want to call it, disadvantage to Barry is 29 points, so which is quite a large margin in PSGL, because obviously we use a different scoring system, 16 points for a win around here. So there's a lot of work for Jarno to do, but you'd be a fool as well to count him out of anything, because we've seen what happens in PSGL towards the end of the season. It tends to get a little bit crazy. So lobby's loaded in right now. We're currently loading into the race, and I would like to point out as well that the last time we were here in Japan, the winner was a Mercedes, but it was Danny Moreno who won last time. So he's very strong around here. Second place was Alvaro Carreton, and third place was Josh Idowu, who's not on the grid today. But Alvaro Carreton and Danny Moreno perhaps ones to watch. Moreno's been a bit unlucky this season. As he said, all of Mercedes' points scored by Jarno as well. But as probably the most surprising one there is Aston Martin, 0 points, 6 rounds in. They've got Simon Veiga and John Evans on the grid tonight, so surely something's going to come of today.
Really hoping the best for Aston Martin, but we will join you in Q1 momentarily after a quick word from our title sponsors at GT Omega. And here we are, trackside in sunny Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix for round number 7. We have Q1 up first. The battle for the top 15 places in this session. The bottom 5 will be relegated from this grid and won't be taking any further part in qualifying. We've already got some drivers coming out of the pit lane, the first of which being the Hungarian Alpine driver of Patrick Saipos, and there's a familiar sight on that car, and it is of course the green intermediate tyres.
Yeah, I say it every time, don't I, Dan? There's 3 certainties in life. There's death, taxes, and F1 esports drivers using intermediates in Q1. It's great to see. It's kind of funny to see, honestly. But Joni Thomas switched it up, Dan. Look at that. He's out on the full wets to see what out here on the full wet tyres. So AlphaTauri trying something different right here. I'm sure that's going to handle horrendously around here, but nice to see nonetheless. This is just, of course, for those of you who are wondering why the hell are they on a wet compound tire on a completely dry track, well, the reasoning supposedly is that it saves a set of dry tires, and it also makes sure that your force feedback and setup is all working correctly without wasting a set of dry tires. That is why they're using the intermediate tires, and we always see it at the start of Q1 without fail. Some drivers will come out and do laps on the intermediate tires. Others won't bother. They'll wait until a couple of minutes in and then do their first runs on the dries. But I'm interested to see how 130R is on a set of full wets, Dan. That should be interesting.
Yeah, well, you get to see Joni Tommler about to take it, and I suppose this period when they're all just checking their setups are okay and making sure their force feedback's in check gives us a little bit more time to just talk about what we've got in store as well. Watch Joni Tommler go through 130R, tippy-toeing as much as possible, and he still almost lost the car. I mean, if that was in actual wet conditions, that would be a death trap of a corner, certainly. But I'd imagine he's just going to peel off into the pit lane. They don't really need to complete laps on the set of the wet compound tyre. Patrick Saipos has decided to do that otherwise, just to, I guess, just second guess himself and make sure that everything is definitely okay. But today, Jack, of course, Suzuka, it's a very tricky circuit, and it's not one typically that drivers tend to enjoy all too much. Do you think that might cause some sort of volatility in where we could see some drivers?
I think that's a good point to make, because we've seen consistently that a lot of drivers do not like this circuit. So yeah, I think that could play a factor in here, that some guys just won't bother trying too hard around here because they just hate the circuit so much, or it might cause them to try even harder because it could be that they don't like it because they're not fast around here. So there's a case to be made for that. So it could be interesting to see who ends up where. But of course, like you mentioned earlier on, Q1 is all about being in the top 15. Bottom 5 get eliminated at the end of qualifying. So don't expect the fun part to start until we get towards the end of Q1. Of course, then we get to Q2, where the top 10 go through to Q3, and then we have, of course, the shootout for pole. I've just seen Freddie Rasmussen had a humongous moment through one of those corners. He's actually pushing on a set of intermediate tyres, and it's very entertaining to watch.
Always going for glory, these F1 esports drivers, and you really do have to respect it. He's invalidated on this attempt, so of course we're not going to see him actually complete this lap, as I've just noticed Simon Weigang has left the session. Hopefully there's no problems from that. That's an interesting line that Freddie's just take. I didn't even know that part of the track was there.
Freddie Rasmussen has just made a whole new circuit there. That's incredible. I didn't even know there was a chicane there, but he somehow found it and made the apex of both of the parts of the chicane as he wiggles his way around Spoon and heads down towards 130R. Maybe he's found another part of the circuit down here that he can head down towards 130R on a set of intermediate tires. He stays completely flat, and it didn't quite work there, but you can see why you don't take that flat. Into the Casio triangle, and let's see if he'll complete the lap or if he'll bail down pit lane. I'd assume he'll bail down the pit lane, and indeed he does, and ends a very entertaining lap of, well, a Suzuka circuit, or his own Suzuka circuit that he's made for this one. So currently Patrick Sipos at the top on that 133.0 on the intermediate tyres. Tomo Paragic is out on the circuit as well on his intermediate tyres. He's the only other person who's out on a lap in these conditions on those intermediate tyres, and let's see if it completes the lap or if he bothers to do that. John Evans is actually on his way out as well on the intermediate tyres as well. So I'm assuming the next cars I would assume that are going to come out onto the circuit should be on a set of the dries to actually give us a representative time. Well, Paragic is going to finish his lap nonetheless. Comes across the line. Does he go quicker? No, he doesn't. He goes at 33. 1:08.125. So nobody else out on the circuit except for John Evans and the other two who are on their in-laps from these inter-runs. John Evans, of course, we mentioned them. Aston Martin, 0 points, bottom of the constructors' table, which is quite surprising, but they've got both of their full-time drivers in today, in John Evans and Simon Weigang. So let's see if they can switch their fortunes around today at Suzuka.
It's not even it's a really good lineup as well that the pair of them have. I mean, John Evans, he's shown his potential in the last year and he's really growing into a fantastic driver. And then Simon Weigang's a veteran of F1 esports. He's been there for a good few years now. I believe it's like 2019 is when he made his debut. This is a team that should be scoring points, and I really hope that this evening the fortunes can change and possibly they can get inside that top 10, even if it's just 1 point. Just being off the mark might be a little bit of a confidence boost because, well, it might actually impact them headed into F1 esports. I mean, not scoring points in PSGL would really not sort of give you that confidence boost that you need. I mean, a lot of these F1 esports drivers take league racing very seriously, and if they're not performing to their absolute best and not scoring any points, what's that going to do to their mentality? And I just hope for their sakes that they can possibly score some points in this race and then get a few in the next few weeks or so. But we're watching John Evans at the moment slaloming his way through the first sector with 11 minutes to go, Jack. We're still yet to see a driver out on a slick set.
Yeah, they're leaving it very, very late to come out. Well, in comparison to other circuits, but they're leaving us to watch a full set of wet runs for the first couple of minutes of qualifying. But I would imagine as soon as we get across the 10-minute mark, there's going to be a mass exodus out of the pit lane out in here in Suzuka. So we'll wait for that to happen. But for now, we just have Mr. John Evans out on his intermediate setup check run, I suppose, in this Aston Martin as he comes down towards Spoon Curve, which is this really fast double left. And as you can see, there's absolutely no grip at all on the intermediate tyres as you second part of Spoon Curve onto the power, losing the rear quite significantly, but continues on his way towards 130R. Now, we know that you can't take this flat on intermediate tyres. I've seen many drivers try it nonetheless. Flicks it in, definitely isn't flat there. It made the apex by lifting off, holding the brakes into Casio Triangle. Gently does it through there on the inters and up towards the pit lane, peels in, and now we have nobody on the circuit, and we haven't seen anybody out on the circuit. But just as we say that, out comes Tomek Karadzic finally on a set of soft tyres.
You hit the nail on the head. As soon as it came to 10 minutes, I looked at the track map and I saw an Alfa Romeo exiting the pit lane. I saw Sebastian Job exiting the pit lane as well. So as soon as they hit the 10-minute mark, they've decided to come out on the slick set. And we always see Tomek coming out first. He's very eager to set his laps. But, of course, if he catches traffic on his runs, it's very difficult to get by around this circuit. There's not many places for drivers to get out of the way of their rivals. So hopefully, for Tomek's sake, that he can find a little window where he's not going to catch any traffic on his runs. But finally, the floodgates have opened. All the cars pouring out of the pit lane, and we are going to see the first proper laps of qualifying very, very shortly.
I'm actually impressed they got that correct. I don't get things right very often, but they actually did, for once, exactly what I thought they were going to do. So Tomek Karadzic, yeah, as you mentioned, he always comes out onto the track first. He likes having that clear air in front of him. He has got one of the AlphaTauris right behind him, which is Sebastian Job, who is in the AlphaTauri this week, full-time AlphaTauri F1 esports driver. Great to have him back once again on the PSGL grid. He's only made 1 or 2 appearances so far, but good to have him nonetheless. Around here is a PSGL podium scorer. If we look back to 2 seasons ago at Zandvoort in those changeable conditions with teammate Joni Tormala taking the victory. But Tomek Karadzic now coming across the start-finish line, the first proper lap we'll see around Suzuka, up towards turn number 1, and you carry some crazy speed through the first corner here, still flat on the entry into turn 1, round turn 2, looking for that apex on the right-hand side, all the way out to the curb, and then begins the ZS through here. It is very, very quick through here, and you've got to be committed as much as possible through here. Cannot afford to run wide. There's basically one line through there. If you get it wrong, you're going to be way offline. Up the hill they go down towards the 2 Degner curves, which are very much like Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2 at Monza. Into Degner 1 and Degner 2 he goes. Camera going to help you in Degner 2. Up towards the hairpin he goes, then onto the power. and looking for the bit slowest corner on the track, then down into third gear, using the camber to help you gently back on the power. You don't want to spin up the tyres too much through there, it'll lose the rear end. Up towards Spoon Curve, then you'll come onto the power. 8th gear he goes into before he now spots his braking just past the 50, down to 6th gear, all the way out to the curb and into the second part of Spoon. Nice apex on the way through there, back on the power, and he heads down towards 130R in his Alfa Romeo, of course his new Alfa Romeo seat that he recently was signed to. Up towards 130R, then flicks it in absolutely flat. And up towards the Casio Triangle he goes then, looking for the braking on the left-hand side, just past the 100, flicks it in to the right, to the left, very easy to invalid, all the way onto the curb, back on the power, and up towards the line. Tommy Pradgett will be the first representative time on the board. It's a 28.6 from the reigning F1 Challengers Series PC champion. Nicely done.
Absolutely, and we're going to see a lot of other times coming out at the moment. We'll see Marcel Kiefer coming up to the line. Actually, he's got Joni Tormela just in front of him as the Finn goes in behind his teammate. Marcel is up next, out the final corner now and opening up the DRS to cross the line, and goes just a few hundredths slower than Tomek. We got Freddie Rasmussen up to the line next, and he goes to the very sharp end. Nice time from him there. Jake Benham has just crossed the line to go into 6th position, so the slowest of drivers with a representative lap time. Caraton has invalidated, peeling off back into the pit lane. Wilson Hughes to the line, splitting the two Alpha Tauris, and goes into 5th position. Next up, I believe, is Daniele Haddad, can go into 4th place ahead of Sebastian Job. Now the two McLarens coming up to the line. Blakely to the top. Barry Borman up next now. Where can he go? Where can the Iranian driver place it? 2,000 slower than Freddie Rasmussen, but it is Lucas Blakely at the moment on top level, as here is now Brendan Lee coming up towards the line. He can go into 9th place. We've got Mercedes car of Jarno Opmeer. He goes into 4th. Danny Moreno is up next now. The Spaniard returning to PSGL. 13th place. Not a good time from him there, as they're all peeling in the laps. Ronhar's gone into 6th place because Patrick Sipos has gone into 2nd. A great time from him there as they all continue on, and I believe, Jack, that is the first set of laps over and done with just a few minutes in.
Yeah, it's very, very close. Oh no, Lucas Blakely has picked up a 5-place grid penalty, illegal blocking. I've never seen that before in Q1. That is really not what Blakely needed. I'm not sure how he's picked that up in the first part of qualifying, but that's an instant 5-place grid penalty. No matter if he can get that removed or not, well, you can't, because it's already in the game. He's going to be starting minimum 5th place. That is a disaster for Lucas Blakely, and to be honest, that's a first for me. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Oh, I think he was just sitting in front of Barry Borman there, and they were just following in tandem. Of course, the game doesn't register when you're on a cooldown lap. It just thinks that you're doing hot lap after hot lap. And so, with Barry staying an extended period of time at low speeds behind his teammate, I think that has given him the penalty. Hopefully, if we are doing a restart, that will be rectified, because I don't believe that Barry Borman would intentionally give his teammate a blocking penalty. And Lucas Blakely, I mean, he's not going to be happy about that one. He had a penalty last week, and I think he could do without one this week.
Yeah, he definitely could. This is championship deciding. If Blakely has to start solo down. Now, it's not a death sentence, but it's exactly not what he needs. So I would assume, because of that, I would assume that it's going to be looked at by the stewards, and you would hope that he could get that removed, or we could get a lobby restart, and whatever grid position he finished in, that he can use that. But it's that's very interesting. That's the first time I've seen that. But you can see here the times are in for the first part of qualifying and so far, and it is so close. So you got Lucas Blakely on a 28.4, and then Patrick Sipos all the way down to Thomas Ronhar, all on a 28.5. And then current cutoff time is a 28.817, which is set by Jake Benham. So the only car out on the track right now is Alvaro Caraton. He's decided he wants the track to himself, and he's on a hot lap right now. The man who finished 2nd here in season 28. PSGL winner, PSGL pole sitter, and he was the man to take the first pole position this season, not this season, but in the social event just before we got this season underway. Caraton was the man who took pole position. So Caraton, he is quick. You would expect him to get out of Q1 here.
Yeah, I think it'd be a massive loss to see Alvaro Caraton being eliminated in the first session. He's yet to get a lap time on the board. He's being joined in that bottom 5 by Fabrizio Donoso, Danny Moreno, John Evans and Simon Weigand, all incredibly talented drivers, and we would hate to see them eliminated this early on, but they do have another opportunity. 2.5 minutes left to go in this session. Barry Burman believes he is safe and he is retired from this session. We're watching Alvaro Caraton just coming out of Spoon now and on the run up towards 130R at the end of the second sector now. The Spaniard has got to go maximum commitment through this left-hander, completely flat through there. I didn't even see a hint of a lift-off as he heads now in towards the Casio triangle. Heavy braking in towards this short chicane and then running off the exit now. The Williams driver opening up the DRS to cross the line, and he slots himself into 6th position with a 1 minute 28.558, and I'd imagine, Jack, that he is safe at that time.
Yeah, you would imagine so. There's 6 drivers in there on the 28.5, so it is so close. Current time is now a 28.816. There is 3,000 separating Danny Berezne, Joni Sormala and Jake Benham, and if you look at Brendan Lee, he's also within a couple of thousands there, so that is a huge amount. That's a minimum amount of time. 6 thousandths covering Brendan Lee down to Jake Benham, so if they will improve a hell of a lot if they can find the 10th of a second. This is going to be a really tight fight to get through. John Evans will not be taking further part in this. It looks like already the woes for Aston Martin continue because they're going to be starting 19th and 20th. Simon Weigand is not out on the circuit, and Danny Moreno is the man currently in the danger zone at the bottom end in 18th place. Donoso as well currently in the drop zone. Jake Benham in the drop zone. So this is going to be very close indeed for all these guys to get through. But Patrick Sipos thinks he's safe. Boromand, Ronar, Paragis, they all think they're safe. And Jarno as well is not out on the circuit. Neither is Blakely, neither is Rasmussen. They all believe that they're safe. So it's anyone really from Kiefer down. They do not feel safe. They're out on their way out again. And looks like the man who will be the first to actually set a time around here is looking like Marcel Kiefer, who's on his push lap at the moment. Up towards Spoon he comes then. He's 9th, so you would expect him to be safe, but a 10th of a second, and all of a sudden he's up in 5th.
Yeah, I would imagine that he just doesn't feel that little bit extra safe. You know, he's still about 800ths off the back of Tomek Paragis, and when you get to this level, those gaps are quite large, and Marcel, he knows that, and he is responding. He's 2/10 up on his previous best through the second sector. This should see him into the next session, and maybe Thomas Ronhar and Tomek Paragis, they might have jumped the gun by retiring in the pit lane as the clock has struck 0, and here comes Marcel Kiefer to the line, to the top of the order, and he goes ahead of Lucas Blakely. Sebastian Job can manage 9th place. We've got Danny Moreno in the drop zone at the moment, and he is in towards the final corners, but a slide out of the Casio triangle. Can he get out of Q1? No, he cannot. Joni Tormala has also peeled off into the pit lane. That leaves Fabrizio Donoso in trouble of going out. His teammate Brendan Lee is coming up towards the line now. Where can the Brit find himself in Q1? He can go into 13th place, but he will be safe into this next session as Danny Berejne to the top of the order. He is ahead of Marcel Kiefer. Wilson Hughes has gone into 9th place, and Fabrizio Donoso eliminating his teammate, going into 13th position. Brendan Lee 16th and out of qualifying 1, and that is a massive loss to us, Jack.
That is a shocker exit. Brendan Lee knocked out by his own teammate Fabrizio Donoso, getting through just about, and Brendan Lee was the unfortunate victim of that. But here is then Danny Berezne going to the top of Q1, Marcel Kiefer behind Lucas Blakely with that 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking, but we will have to wait and see if that gets removed or not. But currently the drop zone after all of that, Brendan Lee, big loss. Joni Tormala, Danny Moreno as well, knocked out. I think he invalidated right at the very last possible moment and was not able to get his improvement. He was 0.4 of a second up on his lap there. And both of the Aston Martins, John Evans out and Simon Weigand starting right at the back. But 0.2 of a second covering first down to 15th. Incredibly close, as always, in PSGL. But that is a shocker for Brendan Lee, 16th place. You would not expect that for him. But to have it done by your own teammate makes it even more painful.
Yeah, I'd say that's got to hurt for Brendan Lee. And this is a track that is so difficult to overtake on. So it's going to be a big challenge for anyone eliminated in the first session of qualifying to make it back up and into a point-paying position. Q2 is about to get underway. We have 15 minutes battling it out for the top 10 in this session. They will advance into Q3 for the fight for pole position. Let's head trackside now to see once again a very sunny Suzuka circuit, and already we've got some activity down in the pit lane. Drivers exiting the pit lane. We've got an Alfa Romeo out first, and that is of course Tomek Parajas. We always see him coming out of the pit lane first, and I'd imagine, Jack, this is a scrub set of the tyres. We typically see drivers in Q2 just set their banker times on the tyre that they got into Q2 on, that they used in the first session of qualifying. So I'd imagine that we're not going to see the times that we saw at the beginning of qualifying.
No, absolutely not. I think the guys you see coming out right now definitely on scrub sets of the soft compound tyre, because the more sets of soft tyres you can save for Q3, the better. Because of course, remember, for those of you that might not be familiar, we'll remind you of course throughout the Q2 tyre rule from last year is now gone. So you do not have the people that go through from into Q3 via this session do not have to use the tyre, or they do not have to start the race on the tyre that they set their fastest time on in Q2. So there's no more trying to get through on medium tyres. There's no more trying to start 11th, because it makes absolutely no difference. So the more sets of soft tyres that you can save for the end of Q2 and of course going into Q3, the better. So this is now of course everyone using scrub sets of tyres to make their way through, but it's getting a little bit congested around Spoon. Barry Borman was actually trying to make an overtake on one of the Williams, trying to get past Daniele Haddad, but Daniele was not letting him through for want no money. So there's a big queue of cars down towards 130. They're all on a scrub set, a used set of the soft compound tyres. Maybe one or two may be able to, or may decide to use a new set of tyres in the early phase to hope that that'll be enough to get them through. If they can get through on one single run, that is the ideal scenario, but they're having to make actual overtakes here if they want to get track position here. So track position is king around here, and Lucas Blakely was trying to get past Thomas Ronnar there, and Thomas Ronnar said no way. And now they're underway, at least after all of that jockeying for position. And the first man who will be setting times, well, of course, is Tomek Parajas, the first man out onto the circuit. So let's see. It's all about getting the banker times in now on the scrub sets and seeing if you can get at least get a good banker time in that may, because we never know, because I mean there's not really a chance of rain, is there? But in case there was rain, to have a banker time on the dries is very key.
Yeah, it looks nice and sunny at the moment in this what looks like evening sun, actually. It paints a really nice picture on my monitor, but yeah, Tomek Parajas, he just wants to set his bank time very early. He does this every time, and fair play to him. He gives us some good entertainment. He likes coming out on the track early, and I want to pose a question to everyone in the live chat. I want to know who you are supporting in this evening. I know that there's a lot of diversity when it comes to the range of support that drivers receive, and hopefully we can see all of the runners, all 15 drivers that we have out on circuit receiving your support. I can see already we've got some calls for Otmir, we've got Marcel, Lucas Blakely, no one for Tomek yet. He comes across the line, and yeah, it's a slower time than what we're used to seeing, a 1 minute 29.004. We got a lot of Jarno Otmir love. Alvaro Caraton has just crossed the line with a 1 minute 28.922. But Jack, all of the love that the drivers get in the live chat is really lovely to see.
It certainly is, and we obviously like to see the support, but what we hate to see is the hate. So of course we've had some drivers talk about it on social media with some toxicity towards certain drivers, and of course we do not tolerate that around here. So if you feel like you want to give abuse to a driver, don't do it, because well, it makes yourself look stupid. And at the end of the day, everyone's human and everyone's here to have fun. So just sit back and enjoy the action that these drivers will provide for you today. And we have an official word, by the way, everyone sitting at home as well. Just checked in on the PSGL Discord. Lucas Blakely is having that penalty removed after he provided his footage. So I'd imagine there will be a restart after this, just to make sure that he will start in his correct grid position. So that's good to see anyway, that we won't have a penalty, or a silly penalty, let's say, that will affect the championship battle that may ensue today. So let's keep that in mind. So Lucas Blakely having that 5th place grid penalty removed, thankfully, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't deserve it at all. So where we see Lucas Blakely qualify is where he will be starting this race. And I like the point that you made about, just not spreading toxicity. I mean, these people are human. At the end of the day, you might just see them as virtual cars going around on your screens, but these are real people, and they do have feelings. And some advice that my mom gave me when I was about maybe 5 years old is that if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it. And I think that still perfectly applies today. So just make sure in the live chat that you are all very respectful to our drivers, who are providing a fantastic show for you this evening for free that you get to enjoy. So make sure you just sit back, take a chill pill and enjoy what we are providing, as we're seeing some more drivers now coming out onto circuit. And I would imagine that these are a fresh set of the tyres, and we are going to now see, Jack, some proper times coming out.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking at the tyres on Sebastian Job's car, Wilson Hughes. They look all nice and shiny and new on that AlphaTauri. You can see Freddie Rasmussen is out on the circuit as well. Barry Borman, current championship leader, of course, by 16 points over Lucas Blakely. Jarno Motmir out on a set of fresh tyres as well. So it's going to be a tasty battle to get through to Q3. I have to say, it's going to be very, very close. You got some big names who might make some exits. We already had Brendan Lee go out in Q1, as well as Danny Moreno, who I think may have been potentially impeded actually in the final sector. So we'll wait and see about that. But as you can see now, it's going to get very, very interesting. Tommy Pratchett is now back out on the circuit on a set of fresh tyres. Alvaro Carreton as well out on the set of fresh tyres. But looking at the track map right now, Sebastian Job is the man who's going to be the first man to set a time on the fresh tyres as he begins his lap, of course. Very successful driver on iRacing. And I think it was impressive, Dan, to see him jump over to F1 and immediately already be F1 esports pace. Very talented guy.
I mean, I've only got to drive Mazdas on iRacing, and it is still I'd imagine just such a different experience to what the Formula One games provide. And of course, this is, I would say it is more of an arcade sim rather than a proper racing simulator like iRacing. But to have those skills transfer over to F1 so easily and so seamlessly is very impressive to see from Sebastian Job. I mean, he's I don't even know all of the titles that he won, but I know he's been very successful with, I believe, G2 esports. Of course, they are massive over in all sorts of esports scenes, and Sebastian Job has been a forefront of the sim racing side of things. So really well done to Sebastian for being able to head over onto F1 esports and still be such a fast driver as, oh dear. I mean, he might as well take up drifting there. That was really lovely to see. I mean, he's ruined his time, but that was a great spectacle.
Yeah, I think he might have forgot that he wasn't driving a Porsche Carrera Cup car right there through Spoon Curve. Well held, Sebastian Job, as he came through there. Runner-up in last season's Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, of course, and a former champion in the series as well. Comes across the line to do a 28.7, but he'll know there's more time in that. There was a lot of sideways moments through that lap, and he knows he needs to tidy it up a little bit. But the man now, who's on a very, very fast time, Freddie Rasmussen, currently now third in the championship, 41 points he stands on at the moment. Still mathematically in the championship, so do not count out the Great Dane. Up he comes towards the line. Let's see what his time's going to be. It's a 28.410. That is already just a little bit slower than Danny Beresne managed in the first part. And there it is, Marcel Kiefer up the top. Red Bull 1 and 2 in Q2 at the moment. So now the time's flying in. Wilson Hughes popping into second. The McLaren's up next. Then Barry Borman into fourth place. Lucas Blakely to cross the line next. He goes across the line, and he did a 28.2, but he's invalidated the time. So 28.2 was there for Lucas Blakely, and he'll know it's there. Jarno Motmir up to fifth, 28.4 as well. Seems to be the common denominator. And there's Danny Beresne up to the top, 28.295. I can say that would have been 4 thousandths of a second slower than what Lucas Blakely, who was a 28.291, but it is very, very close across the board. Daniele Haddad, very impressive. Patrick Sipos into sixth. And now we really basically have our grid almost formed. Tommy Parage is up to third. Jake Benham is going to be the last man to set the time. The first banker times in Q2, the first proper runs on Carreton, 28.288, goes up to the top now. Jake Benham up towards the line then in his Haas car, comes across the start-finish line and goes into 12th, 28.855, so not quite enough. So there it is currently. It is super close. Karaton from Berezne, and it is a 28.489. Currently the cutoff. Jarno Watmir just about in at the moment, but a couple of guys there not with representative times, and one of them being Fabrizio Donoso. There's Ronar up to the top, 28.273. Here comes Donoso crossing the line, not quite enough, 28.574. So Barry Borman at the moment on the cutoff.
Yeah, I mean, he would actually be in the drop zone if Lucas Blakely were to complete that lap. Of course, you could talk about would've, could've, should've, but that is a worrying position for both the McLarens to be in at the moment. Lucas Blakely, whilst he was incredibly quick on his time, was not able to keep it valid, and it doesn't really count at the end of the day. And Barry Burman not as quick as he would have liked to be, but then just look at how close he is to the rest of the grid. We'll actually get the gap to the leader up for you all here. You can see that Barry Burman is not even 2/10 shy of Thomas Ronhart at the very top of the order, and he's in 10th position. Look at the gaps, by the way. Marcel Kiefer's in 4th, but he's half a tenth off the back of Thomas Ronhart. PSGL PC F1 once again, always keeping it as close as ever. And Jack, another big name that we are seeing in the drop zone at the moment is Jarno Opmeer, our 4-time champion in PSGL, 3 on the PC and 1 on the PlayStation. In that bottom 5 is a very worrying place for him to be, especially the high pressure that he has coming into the night, where he sort of needs a good result today to still be within a shot of a realistic shot of the title.
Absolutely, but I think some comfort for him is that he's got 5 drivers on a 28.4, so if he finds a tenth of a second, then he's going to be, if he found a tenth of a second on that lap, that would have put him 6th right about now, just in front of Wilson Hughes. So there is still, there's still an opportunity for every single driver here to get through. Lucas Blakely, of course, he would have been on a 28.291, so that would have been in 3rd place, just in front of Berezne, but again, impressing. Thomas Ronnar up the top in Q2. He already has 2 pole positions this season, and of course he went back-to-back pole positions in this one as well. Can he grab 3 poles this season in PC F1? Let's see if he can. Both of the McLarens on their way out of the pit. Well, it looks like one of them at least is making their way out. It's just Lucas Blakely. He's going out now, so that would have been probably earlier than he probably would have wanted. But of course, he now has all the pressure. He's got to deliver on this lap. He knows he can, but he needs to keep it clean. Sebastian Job as well. He knows he's got plenty of time on the table. He had a few hairy moments on his hot lap, so he knows that he'll have some time in the bag. But Lucas Blakely needs this now. He's had that 5th-place grid penalty removed, but he needs to now make use of it, get himself through to Q3, because this is crucial for his championship hopes.
We'll have to wait and see, and if he doesn't get this lap valid, then his qualifying is going to be over, and he'll be starting from 15th position, as we're seeing a lot of other drivers coming out of the pit lane now and on to their out laps. I think we need to watch on board with Lucas Blakely for his run, because we saw his time. That would have landed him, I believe, above Danny Berejne. What you said, it was like a 1 minute 28.292? 291, so 4 thousandths quicker than Danny Berejne, 3 thousandths slower than Alvaro Carreton. This is certainly a special time that Lucas Blakely was onto, and if he can improve on that, and he should certainly be into the next session. We have all drivers out on circuit aside from Danny Berejne, who's in the pit lane. I'd imagine we're going to see him out very soon. And then Jake Benham, who has retired, and Berejne's actually decided to call it, and he feels that he is safe. And when we've got the likes of Thomas Ronhart and Alvaro Carreton, who are topping the session at the moment, Jack, they're still out on circuit. Danny Berejne might have jumped the gun here.
That's an interesting call from Berezne. Obviously he feels he's safe, but everybody's out on the circuit right now. Nobody feels they're safe, but this is a big lap now for Lucas Blakely. He begins it, crosses the line, heads down toward the first corner. He cannot afford to invalidate this. It'll be 15th if he invalidates it again, and he knows he's got the pace to at least get through. Sebastian Job's in front of him at the moment, so he's got plenty of space to deal with here, thankfully. But he cannot afford to have any mistakes. His championship rival, though, as well, Barry cannot afford to make a mistake on this lap. If anybody else behind him improves, that puts him in the drop zone. So this is a big qualifying for McLaren. Normally they don't have this kind of pressure on them. They're normally up the front end. But this is really crunch time for both Lucas Blakely and for Barry Bormans.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, as in towards the slowest part of the circuit, Lucas Blakely getting onto the power as early as he can. Very easy to light up the rears and spin out through there, but he's done that very nicely. Now approaching Spoon corner. He's got Sebastian Job ahead of him on circuit, but he's not going to be causing any issues for the steaming Scot as he comes off the exit of Spoon, and he just looks so smooth the way that he turns his wheel. It is really it's mesmerizing to watch. And let's see what his time through the second sector is. It's a 1 minute 11.868. This is looking like a very nice time indeed for the Scotsman. Into now the Casio triangle. He's not going to be able to start another lap. Sebastian Jobs coming up to the line. He goes to the top of the order. What about Lucas Blakely? Where can he put his McLaren? He can go into third position. The clock has now hit 0 and drivers can no longer start flying laps. They've got to work with what they have at the moment as Jan Ortme is now headed in towards the final sector. He'll be next up to cross the line, up by 0.2 of a second. We'll see where he can go as he heads now in towards the final few corners. The Flying Dutchman off the exit now, and to come across the line, opening up the DRS. Where can he go? 7th place is not a great start for him. Barry Burman to the line, can go into second position here. We've got one of the Red Bulls up next. It's going to be Marcel Kiefer into the pit lane. Tomek Parajic coming towards the line in 9th place at the moment, and he goes into third position. Jan Ortme creeping closer and closer to the back of the field, and in that bottom 5, Patrick Saipos coming into the pit lane. Jan Ortme has been relegated into 10th. We've got Freddie Rasmussen in the drop zone at the moment, coming up towards the line, and he goes into 6th position. Wilson Hughes now up next. He goes into 6th place. Fabrizio Donoso is the next one to cross the line. Thomas Ronhar goes to the top of the order. Fabrizio Donoso can only get himself in 13th, but your bottom 5 at the end of Q2 is Marcel Kiefer, Jan Ortme, Fabrizio Donoso, Patrick Saipos, and Jake Benham. And Jack, those are some big losses.
I am amazed. Look at the times, Dan. They're all on a 28.2 except Ronhar. That's incredible. The whole field is separated by a 10th of a second. Marcel Kiefer out, Jan Ortme out, Donoso out, Sipos out, and Benham out. And I tell you what, McLaren, they scraped through there. Burman on a 28.24 and Lucas Blakely on a 28.286. That is probably the closest Q2 I have ever seen in PSGL. And Thomas Ronhar has pulled a 10th on everybody, 28.110 in Q2. That is the most incredible qualifying I've ever seen in Q2. And it's not even the pole shootout yet, and they've managed to do that. So look at that. Danny Berezne, he was just about right, wasn't he? P10, he retired early, and he just gets through on a 28.295. I bet you he was sweating in the garage right there. Lucas Blakely getting through, Carrotson getting through, but big exits. Marcel Kiefer, a shock exit there. Jan Ortme as well. Donoso and Sipos, and Thomas Ronhar and Sebastian Job, the stars, and Daniele Haddad as well. A hat tip to him as well in third. But Thomas Ronhar topping Q2 by a 10th of a second, the largest margin we have, and everybody else decided they wanted to be in the same 10th of a second. That's incredible.
Yeah, we've got 9 drivers on a 1 minute 28.2 there. Thomas Ronhar tops Q2 with Sebastian Job recovering out of the bottom 5 into second position. Daniele Haddad, a driver we haven't seen too much of so far this season. He gets himself into third. Barry Burman was able to get himself out of that bottom 5 into fourth. Parajic got himself into 5th. Hughes is into Q3. Freddie Rasmussen, I believe, was the one to actually eliminate Jan Ortme from this session, or it was actually Wilson Hughes. Lucas Blakely in 8th, 9th for Alvaro Carreton. Danny Bergene cutting it very fine in this session. Marcel Kiefer, Jan Ortme, Fabrizio Donoso, Patrick Saipos, and Jake Benham all eliminated from qualifying. That now brings us to the battle for pole position. The top 10 drivers that we have seen so far today are all going to be scrapping it out for pole, and if it's going to be as close as it was in Q2, I'm not too sure we're going to be able to talk tomorrow, Jack.
No, definitely not. But I think now everyone seems to be, or I personally feel it's going to be another Thomas Ronhar pole. I mean, he's just pulled a 10th of a second on everybody, which is sort of classic in a way. Thomas Ronhar, every time he's taken pole, he's done it by a 10th of a second at least. So let's see if Ronhar can keep it up. Has Barry got more pace? Has Lucas got more pace? And especially now, has Sebastian Job got more? Because that was a really impressive lap. Went quicker than everybody else behind him. He was the quickest guy on the 28.2, if you want to put it that way, in front of Daniele Haddad, who put on a great performance as well. So this could be a shock pole position here today. But of course, all eyes are on the 3 championship contenders. They're all in Q3. Barry, Lucas, and Freddie, who did make it through as well. Jarno out. in Q2, did not make it through to Q3. He's got a mountain to climb because depending on how the race goes today, this could be him out of contention for the title.
Yeah, I mean, the stakes are so high, and at a circuit it's very difficult to overtake on. It's going to be very tricky for him to get back into that top 10 and score some decent points today. I mean, if it was at a circuit like Austria or Kota, where you can overtake quite easily around there, there's some good opportunities to do so. Starting out outside the top 10 might not be so bad, but being outside the top 10 in Japan, which is such a narrow circuit, where it's so difficult to find an opportunity to overtake, he's got to be sweating a little bit in his seat, but he does have about 10 minutes just to recuperate and get himself back into the zone. We are waiting for the first drivers to come out of the pit lane. You can see your top 10 drivers who are scrapping it out for pole position, and now out of these 10 drivers, I want to ask the question in the live chat, who will be taking pole position today? Jack's already said Thomas to take pole, and I'm going to go the way of Lucas Blakely to take pole position. It might be a boring pick, but shoot me. You know, I mean, I want to get one thing at least right today.
Let's see. I would like to be wrong. I think to have a shock pole position today would be nice, but I think with the advantage that Thomas Ronnar had in Q2, could be him for pole position again, and it wouldn't be a shocking pick either, because he has got 2 pole positions, back-to-back pole positions, that isn't going for a 3rd position, but it's literally anybody's game. Sebastian Job impressed very much. Daniele Haddad as well, very, very impressive in there as well. But remember, they were all within a couple of thousandths of each other, so if anybody finds an improvement, it could be the deciding factor in this. So the slow laps begin now, so it's all about banker times again. I would expect some scrub sets on this first run, on the first runs as well, some banker times to come in. And, well, maybe perhaps if you've managed to save a set of tyres, you've got maybe 2-3 runs on fresh tyres if you so wish to do that. So now we get to see who's got more sets of tyres available to them. So a couple of drivers out now. Barry Borman out on the track, Karatson, Paradzic, Hughes and Haddad all on their way, as well as Freddie Rasmussen currently on his way out of the pit lane as well. A couple of drivers not bothering to come out just yet. Beresne out as well. So only 2 drivers have decided not to come out onto the track. But now I think this is going to be probably one of the closest battles for pole this season. There's definitely some nerves in the McLaren camp, because that's the first time that they've looked not as quick in Q2, but let's see if they pull it out of the bag in Q3.
Yeah, we're going to find out in 8 minutes' time who will be starting the Japanese Grand Prix on pole position. I've seen a lot of shouts in the live chat for Thomas Ronnar to take pole position as Wilson Hughes takes out a bollard there. Some picks for Barry Burman, Freddie Rasmussen, Lucas Blakely got some picks. I've seen some shouts for Danny Beresne as well. Could be a bit of a dark horse in this session. We've seen him towards the top of qualifying so far this session. He seems to really enjoy this circuit, so maybe Danny Beresne is a driver that is being slept on a little bit, but we are watching Wilson Hughes as he slaloms his way through the first sector. Very tricky, but it just you get the feeling of grip around this part. The car just sticks to the track as he rises up the Dunlop curb now, and we'll see what he can do in his Alpine at the end of the first sector. Wilson Hughes, a driver who's been consistently in Q3 so far this season, and he's been a driver that I've been very, very impressed with so far, and I hope for his sake he can have a good race today.
Yeah, perhaps one of the most consistent drivers in qualifying. I think, as you said, I think he's made every single Q3 session so far this season. So very impressive run from Wilson Hughes so far. There was some stats there with who scored points in every single round, and I think Barry was one and Marcel Kiefer was the other. So I think Barry Borman is currently now the only driver who has finished in the points in every single race so far this season. But Wilson Hughes, the most consistent qualifier, if you put it that, one of the most consistent qualifiers into Q3 in every single race this season, along with the McLarens and some other drivers as well. But very impressive nonetheless from Wilson Hughes. Onto the power he goes, then he'll be the first to set a time in Q3 on his tyres, 29.0. Definitely a scrub set on that car, and a very steady banker lap for him to get himself underway. Tomek Paradzic immediately does a 28.2. Those are new tyres anyway on that Alfa Romeo. Very, very quick lap from Tomek Paradzic, 28.281. That's right on the money where we were in Q2. So the next car to cross the line will be Barry Bormans in that McLaren. Will be able to judge and to gauge what set of tyres is he on? Is he on a scrub set? Is he on a new set? Comes through the Casio triangle, back onto the power again. Big moment for him now, big race for him as well. Comes across the start-finish line, 28.259 for Barry Burman straight out of the box. Very quick time. Lucas Blakely will be shortly following behind as a couple of other cars also now come to the line. Freddie Rasmussen being one of them comes across the line now to do a 28.181. Freddie Rasmussen straight out there with a 28.1. Lucas Blakely 28.1 as well. 131 for Lucas Blakely. But remember, Thomas Ronhar was on a 28.110. There's Danny Berezne 28.0. Out of the box again. What a great performance. Here comes Thomas Ronhar. Can he go any quicker than that? Comes to the line and does a 28.045 just behind Danny Berezne. And we have a real fight for pole position, but Danny Berezne really on the money there. 28.021 on his first attempt on the tyres, and everybody's got another run as well, which is so exciting. Berezne and Ron are front row currently, and Lucas Blakely and Freddie Rasmussen on the second row. That'd be almost ideal for Lucas Blakely to start in front of his championship rival and get a car between himself, because Blakely and Rasmussen both at the moment in front of Barry. But let's see, has Barry got 2 tenths in the bag? I would imagine he does.
Oh man, I mean, you can't see me at the moment, but I've got a massive smile on my face at just how magical this qualifying session has been, and the story is not half over. We still have the final runs of qualifying left to go. I mean, we're getting eerily closer to the 1 minute 27s, and I want to pose a question to the live chat as to what you think the pole time is going to be, and forget who it will be, just what time do you think we'll see the fastest driver at the end of this qualifying session? And surely you have to go the way of the 1 minute 27s.
Yeah, absolutely, because as well, remember, we've had some drivers there, 28.4s, 28.7s, they haven't set times on new sets of tyres yet. So this is going to be so good. I've also got a massive smile on my face. As soon as I've seen Ronhar and Berezne up the top with those times, 10th of a second in hand, brilliant stuff from them, and especially for Danny Berezne. It'd be great to get Danny Berezne onto pole position for the first time this season. Let's see if he can do that, but he's got work ahead now. 3 minutes to go. And this is the calm before the storm right here. We always have it at around this time. Sebastian Job only going for 1 run, it seems. He's still in the pit lane, hasn't done a first run on those sets. Everyone seems to be going for a 27.9, 27.8 currently in the live chat. And I think that's a good prediction. Who's going to dip into it, though? Who's going to be the first to go into a 27? That's a crazy time as well. But all is quiet on the pit straight at the moment. Nobody coming out, but as soon as one comes out, they all come out. So let's see who'll be the first to pull the trigger.
Oh, it's going to be Lucas Blakely, I believe. Well, I was watching him in the pit lane. He's not going to be the first out, but he's certainly exiting.
Oh, big surprise.
Yeah, it's Tomek. Who would have thought? I mean, don't even try and consider anyone else. It is Tomek Paragic, always coming out first in qualifying, and he'll be the first one to bring us around for his final laps. For some reason, we have yellow flags all around the circuit. I don't know why that is a thing, and wow, I love that camera angle that we just had. It was the wide shot of turn number 1 where you could see up the hill and down the main straight. That was really lovely to watch. Tomek has allowed for Sebastian Job to go through, and so the AlphaTauri driver, who has gone a little bit under the radar in this qualifying session so far, he's been able to get himself into Q3 quite convincingly so far this evening. Jack, he'll be the first one to bring us around for a lap, and I wonder where he can go. He's yet to set a time so far in this session, so he's a bit of a question mark as to what his pace might be and how much quicker he can go than his rivals as he heads in towards now the second sector, headed up towards the spoon with 2 minutes left to go in this qualifying. We've entered what Chris Buxton likes to call the Banzai phase, where everyone is exiting the pits. Thomas Ronhar will be the last one out, and that is a driver we certainly need to have a look for.
Absolutely, this is one of the most exciting qualifyings I think I've had in PSGL so far. Sebastian Job, the first man who will set a time in what you refer to as the Banzai phase here in Japan. Sebastian Job now about to come through the Casio triangle, unleash us into the incredible end to qualifying this is going to be. There he goes across the start-finish line. Now remember, his time in Q2 was enough to go second. A low 1 minute 28.2 is what he managed. Has he got more? Can he deliver more in that AlphaTauri? Through turn 1 he goes, out to the curb on the left-hand side, into the S as he goes. Now we're watching the sector times like a hawk. Oh, big moment there. That's the lap surely gone already for Sebastian Job. He's got a very oversteery car underneath him there as he came to the first part of the S, has lost the rear end, and that would be a big chunk of time lost for him already as he comes up towards the first sector split. Into the first sector goes 32.3 in the first sector. Surely already he's lost a tenth of a second, you would imagine, in that first sector alone. Comparing that time now to Tomek Parajic, who does a 32.0 in the first sector, 800s up on his best. Barry Bormand next will be to cross that sector split, we would think, in his McLaren, but Tomek Parajic on a massive flyer right now. Bormand 32.0 as well, but just a tad quicker than Tomek Parajic as well. It's so close. Thousandths is all that separates it at the moment, but it's now the climax to qualifying here in Japan. Thomas Ronhaar has just begun his lap now in his Haas car, but we're watching now to see what the first times will be. Here comes Sebastian Job then for AlphaTauri. Into the last corner he goes. He lost the rear end again through the Casio triangle, fighting the car very, very hard. Up towards the line, loses the rear end on traction as well. Up towards the line he goes and goes to a 28.6. He'll know there's more time in that. Loads of mistakes through that. Tomek Parajic now up towards the start-finish line in the Alfa Romeo. Can he go to pole position here? Yes, he can! 27.967. Now let's watch for Danny Berezne just behind him. Can he go to pole position? He certainly cannot. A 9.89 just behind his teammate. Here comes Barry Borman. He's a tenth of a second up. What can he do in the final sector? Barry is not enough for pole. 28.015 for Barry Borman. Next up is Lucas Blakely. He's gone quickest of all in the middle sector here in the McLaren. He needs this lap. He cannot afford to invalidate it. Thomas Ronhaar will be the last car to cross the line. But here comes Lucas Blakely in the McLaren. He needs this badly. Cross the line. Yes, it's another 27.8 for Lucas Blakely. Delivers at the moment that he needs to deliver it. Now, Freddie Rasmussen will be shortly cross the line. Carreton next across the line. Then he goes to second. 27.936. Brilliant effort. Here comes Rasmussen. He's 0.3 of a second up. Here comes the Dane. He needs this lap too. Cross the line. Does he go enough? No. 27.952. But Ronhaar is lost. Ronhaar is lost. Where does he go? That's pole for Thomas Ronhaar at the death. 3 pole positions for the rising star from the Netherlands. And he has pulled out a low 27.852. That is incredible. Wow. Thomas Ronhaar is on pole again in PSGL.
Thomas Ronhaar has just come back from holiday and he's already right at the top of PSGL once again, going just 100th clear of Lucas Blakely at the top of the order. What a time that is. A 1 minute 27.852 for the Dutchman. Lucas Blakely will start alongside him on the front row. Alvaro Carreton third. Fourth for Freddie Rasmussen. Sixth is Parajic. Berezne in sixth. Seventh for Boromand. Eighth for Haddad. Ninth for Wilson Hughes. And Sebastian Job starting in 10th. But Thomas Ronhaar, and once again, he is proving to us the amount of potential that he has. I mean, he is undeniable at the moment. He is really shaping up to be something special.
3 pole positions as a reserve driver, ladies and gentlemen. That is incredible. Only, from what I remember, there was only the other driver that comes to my mind that got a pole position as a reserve was Ruben Vallejo, who did that. And he's done it 3 times now in the top tier. And alongside him on the front row is Lucas Blakely. And Bormand in 7th. That's his worst qualifying so far this season. And that is exactly what Blakely needed today, is for him to have a poorer qualifying than what he would have had before. But now, of course, we get a quick breather because we're having a lobby restart. So we need to sort ourselves out there, because we need to give Lucas Blakely his second place, because he would have been starting 7th right there behind his teammate if we kept the penalty there. So we're going to get a lobby restart. It gives a chance for us to get our heart rate down, because that was the most exciting end to qualifying, and it came down to the very last lap by Thomas Ronhaar. And again, it just continues to impress. And we know the F1 esports teams pay attention to PSGL, and that's exactly what he needs to be doing, just consistently delivering. But now he needs to start converting them into wins.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Ronhaar there's going to be some sort of bidding war for him at some point. I mean, esports teams will be crawling all over the floor to be getting Thomas Ronhaar onto their team because he is so damn impressive at the moment. And I think it is good that we are actually having a Lopper restart because I might need a drink of water in a moment. I mean, this has already been bad for the vocals and we haven't even got to the race yet. That's the most exciting part. You touched on, Jack, about Lucas Blakely. He's going to be starting in second. His main rival in the championship, Barry Bormand, starting down in seventh. And you're right about it being exactly what he needs in this championship hunt. If he can jump Thomas Ronhaar at the beginning and then Barry gets bogged down in traffic, he can close that gap slowly but surely. And I'd say it's also going to be beneficiary to not only Freddie Rattelson, but Jarno Otmir as well, of course, being eliminated in Q2. I think a lifeline for him will be that his, the championship leader who is stretching that advantage to him is not as far as ahead as he maybe would have expected.
Yeah, I think there's still very much a chance for him. So he needs to just keep his head like we know he can. So we'll see how he's able to do. He's starting, I think, 12th or 13th for Jarno Otmir. And, of course, now Freddie is still very much in the mix because he needs to forget about maybe outscoring Lucas as long as he keeps outscoring Barry. That's what he needs to be doing now. He's 10 points behind Lucas, so ideally he does need to finish in front of Lucas, but he needs to close the gap to Barry overall. So that should be his focus today, is just to get that gap down, but as well for Jarno as well. So this is the lowest grid position we've seen Barry start from. So there's a little bit of pressure now. He's in the mid pack. He's got some very quick guys around him, so he needs to deliver a really good race. He needs to avoid getting caught up in any chaos as well, which is can always happen in Japan turn one. But Thomas Ronhaar, let's see if he can convert this one. He's had two not go his way, finishing second on the second attempt. Let's see if it can on the third attempt, third time lucky, can convert it into a win. But for Lucas Blakely, this is a golden opportunity to close that gap from 16 points right down to a single points gap, a single number points gap. That's what he needs to heading into the last three rounds and make this an exciting climax. But as well, of course, McLaren are running away with the Constructors' Championship as well, and they may have that wrapped up by the end of the next round.
Yeah, I mean, McLaren are so far ahead at the moment. Whilst we actually have this little break, I'll bring up the constructors standings for you right now. McLaren, of course, are just so strong at the moment. 118 points to their name so far this season. Red Bull Racing are their closest rivals with 64 points. So they are in a really, really good position today to extend that gap, especially with Marcel Kiefer starting in 11th on a circuit that's very difficult to overtake on, so he might not get a shot at scoring points and keeping that streak alive. And if that is the case, then Barry Bormand will be the lone driver who has scored points in every single race that he has started in PSGL so far this season, and I think he is very, very deserving of that. Of course, Barry Bormand, our championship leader at the moment. He's sort of always been the bridesmaid, but never the bride. Of course, he was all the way back in season 27 and 28, the first season of PSGL PC F1. He was taking it to Jarno Otmir into the final round of the season, but he wasn't quite able to secure it. And I think this would be a really good opportunity for him to finally capture that glory that he was promised so long ago.
Yeah, and we all remember back to that first round, or that first season in Brazil, where it came down basically into those final laps between himself and Jarno, and that whole final round was set up by the previous round, which was Australia. Barry had a substantial lead, but if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to go watch season 28 Australia, the final two laps from the safety car, where Jarno Otmir drove through the whole 10 cars to take a win because he boxed under the safety car for soft tires. That's one of the greatest drives I've seen. But Barry literally did everything possible to secure himself. He did manage to finish. He did manage to win the race, but Jarno finished second after driving through from the back of the grid after getting a disconnect in Q1. So I think could be a redemption arc for Barry Bormand, and I think we're forgetting this is ending a 3-season domination Jarno Otmir as well, which we didn't think that would ever come to an end. He's just always been there for Jarno, but again, he's not out of it. Jarno is definitely not out of it. He's 29 points behind the lead, so there's still plenty of points up for grabs. And if something happens, he's there to pick up the pieces, and he's not too far behind really either. So if things do go wrong, he can still secure himself a good position in the championship. But this is golden time for Lucas Blakely. He needs to make this work while his teammate is down in 7th and close up the points gap with, after this round, 3 rounds to go.
Yeah, he's essentially a win behind at the moment from his teammate. Of course, Barry Burman winning last week in Mexico, and Lucas Blakely only scoring 1 point in 10th position due to a penalty for an illegal pit entry. It's so easy to do as well at Mexico. We could see some more infringements today, although it is a little bit more clear-cut on where you actually do enter. So hopefully drivers will respect that today, and we won't see any infringements, and hopefully we can all have a penalty-free race. But something tells me that we are going to be that there's a little bit of a doubt in my mind that is going to be the case. If you're just joining us now, we are having a short little break. We're getting the lobby restarted due to an unfair penalty that Lucas Blakely received in Q1, which would have seen him take a 5-place grid penalty, actually starting alongside his teammate Barry Burman. They would have been running 6th and 7th. I think I would have quite liked to see that, but of course an unjust penalty is an unjust penalty. And if you didn't see qualifying, I would highly recommend you go back whilst we're in this little lull period and just see the final fight for pole position. Thomas Ronhaar taking pole position. I mean, he was incredibly quick on his runs, and a 1 minute 27.852 was beyond my expectations. I thought it was going to be a midpoint 9. That was going to be the pole time. He's gone ahead and taken that out by a 1/10 of a second. And same with Lucas Blakely as well. He was only 15 thousandths off the back of Ronhaar. So once again, Jack, PSGL proving to be the most competitive grid around.
It is, without a doubt, because this is the F1 esports grid, basically what we've got here. So this is a taster, maybe not a completely accurate taster of what F1 esports will be like, but it's a taster of how close it will be and why we enjoy this so much when we have qualifyings like that. So we're just waiting now for Jarno to finish setting the grid. He's got to, obviously he's the also the lobby host, so he's got to make the grid that he's been sent. So it is possible to do that, to set the grids for this next race that we've got. No formation lap either. We've got to keep that in mind as well. So I'm kind of glad we had the breakdown. Heart rate's down again because we would have had to jump straight in without a formation lap build up to this race, and so we had a chance, and the drivers as well, to have a breather before we get into this race. No formation lap. There's still some issues with it, so we'll be jumping straight in to the race action, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully we get to see a patch coming out soon to fix the issues with the formation lap. The grid has been set. Jarno Otmir has readied up, so I'd imagine that drivers are going to be getting the message very soon that we are going to be heading underway very, very shortly. It is Thomas Ronhaar starting from pole position for the 3rd time this season. He's got Lucas Blakely alongside him. Championship leader Barry Burman is down in 7th position. Jarno Otmir was eliminated in Q2. A lot of high drama situations here in PSGL. We will join you for the race after a quick message from our title sponsors at GT Omega. And you join us back, not in the intermission screen, bring you over to the loading screen that we have prepared, where the drivers will be taking on the race in Japan. Drivers just locking in their tyre choices that they have got, and then we'll have a short little time to wait, and then we'll get right into the action, Jack. No formation lap today, which means we are going to see some problems with tyre warm-up at the start, and if drivers start on a set of the hard compound of tyre, they are certainly going to be in trouble in comparison to drivers who might start on the mediums.
Absolutely, it's been a consistent theme. I think the first time we saw it was at Spa when they all went into La Source on ice cold tires. I do see the glimmer of a white sidewall tire somewhere down the grid there. So it's going to be interesting. Turn number one. It's not a long run to the first corner, so it's going to be kind of throwing it in and hoping that it stays. So expect some problems into turn one. They're going to be probably cautious, but it makes for who's going to nail the start better on those cold tires in this race as well. So I would expect the majority of the grid to be on the same compound of tire for the first part as well. Maybe one or two might decide to go for the soft tires. We saw that work for Marcel Kiefer very well in the early part of Spa. He blitzed through the field, but wasn't quite able to make good use of it, and wasn't able to get enough of a gap to make it work. So I'll be interested to see what happens here. Now, we know the race sort of follow a formula. Be some hard race in the first maybe one or two laps, then a little bit of a train for a while, and as soon as we get to the pit stops, it is going to kick off. I promise you that. But unless somebody else decides to go for soft tyres and make it interesting at the very start, we'll see. But watch out for them off the start, because they will have a much better tyre warm-up compared to everyone else. So they're all sitting on the grid waiting to go. And the longer they sit there, I think it's going to make things even more nerve-wracking for Thomas Ronhaar, who's had 2 wins go astray after starting on pole position. Can this be his lucky break?
I would really hope so. I mean, Thomas Ronhaar is such a talented driver and a huge prospect in F1 esports. You can see the start timer is ticking down. And so, Jack, I'm going to pose a quick question to you. 2 words. Who is winning this race today?
Lucas Blakely.
Okay,
that's my tip.
Jack's gone with Lucas Blakely. I'm going to go with Freddie Rasmussen to take the win today. Let us know in the live chat who you think is going to take victory. But for now, we are about to get ready for the start of the Japanese Grand Prix here in a PSGL 5. Red lights. And we are underway for the Japanese Grand Prix. And it looks to be a fantastic start for Lucas Blakely. He's been able to jump. Thomas Ronhaar already in towards the first corner. Alvaro Caraton is going to catch the Dutchman napping as they head in towards the first 2 bends. Lucas Blakely leads Alvaro Caraton into second. Thomas Ronhaar down into third, starting on that hard compound of tyres. Of course, it's going to be so difficult to get the temperature up, but they're going to be slaloming their way through now the first sector all the way through. Tomek Parajic putting pressure on towards the Haas car as they rise up the Dunlop curve. He's practically pushing the Haas car through there. We're right on board now with the Polish driver. He's got a face full of Haas's now in towards Zegna 1 and 2, starting on the hard compound of tyre. Thomas Ronhaar has already been dropped 1 second. The tyre warm-up is dreadful at the moment, as towards the inside, Tomek Parajic trying to make the lurching dive bomb. Thomas Ronhaar has nothing to defend with. The Alfa Romeo is going to try and slip through off the exit with the grippy and medium tyres, and he's made that move stick. Thomas Ronhaar now, Jack, down into 4th.
Yeah, and they've lost 1.7 seconds of the cars in front as well. Lucas Blakely using the medium tyres to good effect there, and many others using it as well. Danny Berezne now the next man to challenge Ronhaar. Down towards 130 they go. Wilson Hughes on the back of Rasmussen as well, who's also on the hard compound tyres. Those hard tyres struggling for warm-up, as here comes now Berezne inside a 130R. He's going to throw it in there and just about slot in front as they all fight for position behind. Wilson Hughes moves in front of Freddie Rasmussen as well. Burman losing out there, down to 8th place. He goes after losing the position to Wilson Hughes now. Lucas Blakely is away out front. Caraton following behind, and that bottleneck in the first sector has cost Tomek Parajic 1.8 seconds to the next car in front, which is Alvaro Caraton. So that's good news for Blakely and Caraton, as now they fight it out behind as well. Some swaps in positions between Sebastian Job and Daniele Haddad. Job goes through on him there. Moreno already into pit lane. Looks like he may have picked up some damage. Swaps onto the medium tyres, but Blakely, that is the start he needed. The dream start. Got into the lead before turn 1. Caraton followed them through, and they've got a huge gap to the next car behind.
The 2 McLaren splitting their strategies. Barry Burman in 8th position, losing a place at the start, and he is now down into 8th. On that set of the hard compounder tyres, we're seeing all the medium runners filing towards the front, but those tyres will not last forever. These guys have got to make them work as early as possible. Alvaro Caraton and Lucas Blakely have had the luxury of doing that, because they were able to overtake before the first sector S's hit, and Tomek Parajic was not quite so lucky. But if he can push a little bit in these next few laps, he'll be able to whittle that gap down to around about 1 second, where he can utilise the DRS. Thomas Ronhaar could be losing another position now because Wilson Hughes is using the battery down towards 130R. He might even make the move before the corner even comes, and there it is. Wilson Hughes up into 5th place now, and he gets ahead of Thomas Ronhaar, who's down from pole position in the space of 2 laps all the way to 6th position.
Yeah, that's a big loss now, and he's now with the rest of the hard compound tyre runners, but he's dropped back into the clutches of Freddie Rasmussen and Barry Burman, who all started on the hard tyres as well. So he's lost a lot of ground when you compare it to everyone else. DRS enabled on this lap, of course, and Wilson Hughes using extra battery to get back in the DRS to Danny Berezna. He was just outside of it going into the first corner, but now he is definitely in it. So you would imagine now that Ronhaar needs to make sure he stays in DRS of the cars in front. It'd be a difficult task, but he needs to do it to make sure that this may work. Paragis now reeling in Caraton a little bit on that lap. 1.4 seconds the gap comes down to. Blakely controlling it 0.6 of a second out front at the moment between himself and Blakely at the moment. Now things go from bad to worse for Danny Moreno. He's just come back to pit lane with more wing damage, and the winner from season 28 is having a absolutely horrendous start to the Grand Prix already in this race. So unfortunate for Moreno, but it's all good news for McLaren's for the McLaren of Lucas Blakely out front. This is what he needs to do to bring this championship even closer into the next few rounds. Hughes just outside the DRS at the moment. He needs to be in it to keep himself in contention here. Using up a lot of battery, but he's nearly used all of his battery now, down to nearly 5%. He's used all of it to keep himself in a chance of getting DRS, but I don't think he's going to quite have it, Dan. This is going to leave him vulnerable to the cars behind. Yeah,
he was caught up behind Thomas Ronhaar for a little bit too long, and now he's lost that time to Danny Berezna, who's closing up to his teammate. DRS has already been enabled as of last lap, and drivers are getting their first taste of it this time by, of course, only one DRS zone around this circuit, and Tomek Paragis is the fastest man at the moment. He is now down to 1.2 seconds off the back of Alvaro Caraton. Joni Tormala is making moves on his medium compound of tyres. They're still in great working condition. I'd imagine in the next maybe 5 or 6 laps, the hards will phase into this race. The mediums will begin to fall off, and then we'll start to see those guys slowly slip back into the grasp of the hard runners. So for the likes of Thomas Ronhaar, Freddie Rasmussen and Barry Burman, whilst they're a long way off the lead at the moment, they are certainly going to come back later on this race, Jack.
Absolutely they are, and they'll be biding their time behind. We're looking now, Paragis has put in a mammoth effort there to bring it back to almost under a second. Berezna is also nearly there as well, but as you can see, he's used up a lot of battery to get back in there, and guys in front now, you can see Caraton is on 15%, Blakely 81. He's used absolutely no ERS. Caraton's having to use to stay with him, but now you can see Paragis just on the cusp of DRS, and making sure he stays in there to make sure all his efforts are not in vain. To get himself back in the clutches. Berezna now in there as well, so the DRS train will now begin. Wilson Hughes 1.6 off the back of them. Ronhaar has stayed in DRS, that's the key point here, and Rasmussen has not quite managed to do that. He's just off the back of him by just over a second in this one. So crossing the line now, has Paragis got DRS? Yes, he has, and that'll be a saving grace for him, and also for Caraton to try and save some battery back into his ERS deployment. And now we can expect this phase of the Grand Prix to be quite settled for the next few laps or so, and we'll see how the hard tyres come back into effect. But you can sort of see already Wilson Hughes not able to stay with them, and that's a DNF for John Evans already in this Grand Prix. Sector 3, he's retired in the pit lane, and Aston Martin's woes continue.
Yep, their other driver at the moment, Simon Weigang, down in 17th position. It's going to be very difficult for him to get inside that top 10, so he might have to go another week of seeing Aston Martin plumb last without a single point to their name. It's a real shame for the Silverstone-based team, but they've just got to recuperate and come back stronger as we watch the drivers now on lap number 5. Joni Tormala has been mired in traffic at the moment due to the fact he just can't get by. It's so difficult to overtake around this circuit, and now in that DRS train, these guys will be slipstreaming off each other, and it's so difficult for him to actually catch up and overtake his rivals. So it's not looking good for Yoni, but all of the medium runners at the front of the order, seemingly the top 4 are having a great time of things. Wilson Hughes, though, is not particularly strong on his medium tyres. He's almost dropped Thomas Ronhaar out of his DRS range, but not quite at this point, and that means that he is going to phase in nicely to this race. Meanwhile, Barry Burman, further back behind, is on the back of Frederick Rasmussen, who is yet to get DRS. to Thomas in front of him, and the Iranian ace could now try and pounce as he opens up the DRS, headed down the main straight. Freddie Rasmussen is not really going to defend this one, as peeling to the right hand side in towards the first corner, pulling back onto the racing line. Barry Burman up into 7th position, and his hunt of Thomas Ronhaar now begins.
Yes, the move he needs to make is back where he started now, Barry Borman. But maybe that's what Freddie wanted now, to have a car to follow in front of him, have some DRS to use as well. Sebastian Job not too far off of them either, but Borman now needs to close into Ronhaar here. He needs to get into that DRS. He's got a battery to use, starts using it round part of the Dunlop curve there. Into the Degners he goes, and Rasmussen would be hoping to go with him here. They've got similar amounts of ERS charge at the moment, so he'll be hoping to just stay with them. Out front though, Blakely from Caraton, Paragis and Beresne, so both of the Alfa Romeos now together can start to maybe mount a challenge here. They worked well together for one race. I remember they slipstreamed each other for quite a long time to get themselves back into the points. It was an earlier race this season. It was great to see them work together so well. But I'm observing now Lucas Blakely, who has used basically no ERS, 80% charge compared to Caraton's 8%. That's not that is 80 versus 8. He's got plenty to use, and if he really wanted to, he could nearly break away from the RS, and he's got an opportunity to do that. 0.8 of a second is the gap right now. Caraton seemingly struggling, and Blakely is now, well, you can sort of tell, he is in full control out front at the moment. Everyone else behind him has got less than 10%. He's got nearly 80.
He is in a great position at the moment, comfortably leading the way as he has done since the first corner on the first lap, where he was able to overtake the hard struck tyres of Thomas Ronhaar. It's not been a great start for the Dutchman, but once he's on the mediums, he'll be in a great place to catch all of these guys, and that's why they needed to stretch out their advantage already. Of course, they are going to be pitting earlier than the hard runners as well, so they're going to have the undercut advantage, which can be quite strong around this track. So even though they're not going to be as quick later on in the race, the work that they're putting in now may lay the groundwork for how their final few laps are going to pan out, as we're sort of seeing what is typically found in the midpoints of these first stints. Lap number 7, we're not seeing too many overtakes, drivers just settling into their rhythms and slipstreaming off each other because they know that they can't win the race on lap number 7. They've got to wait until the very bitter end of this Grand Prix. So your running order, your top 5 at the moment is Lucas Blakely, Alvaro Caraton, Tomek Paragis, Danny Beresne and Wilson Hughes, the 2 Alfa Romeos, having a great time of it, Jack, at the moment. But when it comes to strategy and having to share that pit box, it's going to be that's going to be their Achilles heel today.
Yeah, it definitely is. They've got to make a call early on to try and decide who comes in first. I just noticed Blakely has pulled it out to 1.2. He used up a good chunk of battery down towards 130R and pulled out a DRS. So that's exactly what I thought he could do. If he wanted to, he could break away, and he has done. And that's put Caraton at the mercy of Tomek Paragis now, who's in his DRS, and Caraton will have no DRS to defend with, and that'll give Blakely a little bit more breathing space. They start battling behind. That'll give him some room to deal with. Also, I was just keeping an eye. We saw that move between Rasmussen and Barry. Barry has not been able to make any inroads on Thomas Ronhaar in front, and Rasmussen has just stayed behind him and saved up that ERS charge. That up to 50% compared to Barry's 24 at the moment. Job has stayed with them too. He's got 60%. He's managing that ERS quite well. Haddad in behind. Tormala on the mediums, not really making any inroads. Opmir then following behind with Donoso. So there is an interesting dynamic at play here. Wilson Hughes 2.3 seconds off of Beresne. He's got nothing really to try and fight with, and Ronhaar has crucially stayed with them all the way, kept the DRS and stayed in front of Barry, and Barry has crucially not been able to drop Rasmussen. And remember, Rasmussen is still very much in the championship hunt here.
I mean, Barry's been actually losing quite a bit of time in the last few laps. When he was able to overtake Freddie, the gap was about 1.1 seconds maybe, so he just needed to push for a 10th quicker than Thomas Ronhaar than he would have been in that DRS. Instead, he's dropped it now 1.8 seconds off the back of the Dutchman, who is seemingly in he's just in such a great place at the moment. He's even been able to store up some ERS battery. If he doesn't push for the rest of this stint and then charges it up once more in the pit lane, he's going to have plenty of resources to fight later on in this Grand Prix. The gap at the front of the order has increased tenfold, and now Alvaro Carreton is beginning to feel pressure from Tomek Paradzic and Danny Berezny in behind, and that is crucial that Tomek makes that move for his race, because if he's not able to keep up with Lucas Blakely, well, it's going to be very difficult for him to win this race. So the Polish driver has just got to keep in tow with Alvaro Carreton, then find the opportunity as soon as possible and try and make that move for second position on the road.
Yeah, he's going to try and do it quickly here. He's Blakely's breaking away, and you can see now Tormola what's been an issue. He's off at the Dunlop curve by the looks of it. So Tormola, who made all the inroads, all the work he just did on the mediums, is now all undone. It drops down to 17th place. So he's got to get rid of the gravel and those tyres as well. That's a shame for Yoni. It looks like he dropped it by himself through the Dunlop curve. Promotes everyone else up a position in this race. So that's what they needed, but not exactly what he needed in that regard. So about to go on to lap number 10. Remember as well, with Ronar staying with Wilson Hughes here, of course, he's going to be on a faster compound of tyre at the end of the race as well. Everyone else will have to go to another set of tyres that will be slower compared to his. So he's playing the long game, and Blakely opening the gap out again in 1.8 seconds it sits at now as he crosses the start-finish line to begin lap number 10, and he's in full control of this one. This is a masterful display so far from him, and it is the performance he needs to give to keep himself in the championship hunt versus Barry Borman, who's in 7th place and is, well, being basically hunted down by Rasmussen, who's just been sat there. And it was obviously a tactical decision. Rasmussen led him through and has just used Borman to save up battery, because you can see he's managed to get himself up to 65% charge in that battery. And look at that gap up front now, out to 2.1. Blakely is having a great time out front.
Yeah, he's now been able to stretch that advantage even more. He could just cruise home at this point, well, at least for the rest of this stint. Then he's got to push on his set of the hards to try and make that undercut strategy work on the runners who started on that white compound of tyre. Thomas Ronhar was able to close the gap in the first sector to Wilson Hughes. He's now only 6/10 shy of P5 at this point, and I'd imagine, Jack Canan, that these hard tyres are quicker than the mediums. So Thomas Ronhar will have the pace advantage just in terms of the car performance in regard to Wilson Hughes. He's lost a little bit of time in this second sector. It's very difficult to follow around this track, but maybe he just pushed in that first sector, close the gap to let Wilson Hughes know that he was there, and in the next few laps he's going to try and push even harder. But he can see in his visor that Wilson Hughes, I think, might be low on ERS, because I at least on my side of things, I saw a flashing red battery symbol on the back of that car, and indeed he does, and he comes into the pits first. Wilson Hughes is the first of the medium runners in that top 5 pack to come into the box, and the Alpine driver is going to fit a set of the hard compound of tyre to go to the end here.
Yeah, there he goes onto the hard compound tyre, as you said, and that's going to, it was an early call. Tormola's into the pit lane as well to swap off his medium tyres. Of course, he just had a spin, so those tyres are going to be absolutely done. So there you can see how long they've managed to go on those set of medium tyres. So you'd expect, now I'm expecting with the fact that Lucas Blakely has opened that gap out to 2.6 seconds, I expect to stop very shortly, but he hasn't used up all of his ERS yet, so he's not pushing too hard, but again is still continuing to extend that lead out front, and he's obviously left Carreton in the clutches of Tomek Paradzic and Danny Berezny as well. Ronar's now got clean air in front as well. Borman with clean air, but he's got Rasmussen, Job, Haddad. He's got everybody else behind him. So Borman is leading the train of cars all the way down to Simon Weigang, who sits 15th at the moment. So Borman now needs to keep his head right here, and they've got to decide between them. McLaren's splitting the strategies as well, so Borman will be going longer than Blakely, but it's obviously, let's see if that works for them. He's got a gap now to try and work with. 2.8 seconds the gap now, 2.9. It continues to go up here. Any sign of Blakely coming in just yet into the pit lane, now up to 3 seconds, and he's now continues on, so he's still very comfortable now, using a lot of battery on the exit of the final corner, so he's now trying to open that gap as much as possible. As Berezny, the first of the leaders to come in.
So Berezny into the box, he'll set he'll fit a set of the harder compound of tyre. Meanwhile, Freddie Rasmussen is going to repay the favour to Barry Burman that he did a few laps ago. He's going to try and go up the inside in towards the first corner, and he makes that move stick. Barry Burman with very little defence there. He didn't even try to hold him up there just to avoid a collision, but once again they swap around and Freddie Rasmussen is back up ahead of the Iranian. Can he pull that gap? We'll have to wait and see. Brendan Lee is the first of the hard runners to come into the pit lane, and he's now on a set of the medium compound of tyre. Wilson Hughes, he's filed out 4.5 seconds behind Berejnay, but with the warm-up around this track being so terrible on the set of the hard compound of tyre, Wilson Hughes with a lap older tyres is going to be a lot quicker than Berejnay on his outlap. In this first sector alone, he's been able to close a second, so yeah, I'd imagine that he is going to be back to whereabout he was last time when he came into the pits, which was about 2.5 seconds.
Absolutely. So you can see Berejnay now with full clean air out front. 12 seconds of clean air to be exact that he's got. So it is it's great to now for him to have that clean air to now push, and we'll see if he manages to make it work. Blakely now staying out a little bit longer. Caraton, any sign of him coming in? Indeed he does. Caraton in, Parajic follows him, so Blakely going very long here, doesn't want to stay on those hards for too long by the looks of it, and continues on in his McLaren. Ronhar moves to second now. Rasmussen followed by Borman, followed by Sebastian Job, and everybody else who started on the hard tyres. So Blakely is the only man who started on the mediums left out there. And let's see if he can make this work, because this is he's gone quite long in them. You can see the blistering on the right front, but is continuing to set really good times here. So it's very comfortable. Still has the ERS to work with, and doesn't want to stay on those hards for very long, as we see now. Caraton out of the pit lane, Parajic behind him. Danny Berejnay, as you can see, 2.6 off the back, so wasn't quite able to use that to his advantage. Of course, the tyre warm-up will help him as well, so he should close up by the end of the lap.
Yeah, he'll be right on the rear diffusers of Tomek Parajic and Alvaro Caraton, and I'd imagine that being the lone medium runner who started on that compound, Lucas Blakely is going to start to think about pitting. Thomas Ronhar has been able to close that gap ever so slightly on this past lap or so, which sort of is an indicator that those mediums are going off. But since he has such a large gap out front, why not stay out on the set of the mediums for just one extra run? But I'd imagine now that he is going to come into the pit lane at the end of this lap. He's headed in towards now the Casio triangle and in towards the last few corners. Lucas Blakely, does he opt to pit this time by? Indeed he does, and this will be interesting to see where he emerges in comparison to Alvaro Caraton, Tomek Parajic and Danny Berejnay, who are all following him in that train. He had 3 seconds to the goods when he before the pit stop phase started, and now he's exiting the pit lane. All of the hard runners overtaking, aside from Sebastian Job and Jake Benham, who are opting to pit now for the set of the medium compound of tyres. We can see that they've gone 14 laps in this race. Why not go an extra why not go 14 laps to the end? They can make it, and I'd imagine that they are going to have some great pace over the hard runners.
Should do, and Blakely coming out clear in front. Look at that, 5.4 seconds. Now that gap will come down, but that just shows you he is in complete control, has managed to overcut everybody and stay out in the lead. But of course he's now going to get the tyres up to temperature, and Caraton will close the gap very quickly, but he is now he will by the end of the lap have about a 3-second advantage like what he had before he came in. So it'll be normal service resume, but now it's all focus on what happens with the hard runs. They'll obviously switch to the mediums to go towards the end. Moreno picks up another penalty, but Sebastian Job, he pitted early from the hards onto the mediums to come out in front of Brendan Lee, who made up a lot of ground. As you can see, Brendan Lee was out in Q1, if you remember. He's trying to make up positions here, but Sebastian Job coming out in front of him, and he's now going to try and use those mediums to good effect as they will shortly begin lap 15. Thomas Ronhar will now lead the Grand Prix. Started on pole, didn't quite make it, but having a look here, Jarno Wotmir on the attack. Here he comes on Daniele Haddad. Does he fancy the overtake? Well, it doesn't matter, because in comes Rasmussen and in comes Haddad from the hards. They will move on to the set of medium tyres, and they'll obviously drop quite a ways down, but they'll have the pace advantage. Rasmussen now onto the mediums, and let's see if he can make those work Weigang also coming in for Aston Martin. Onto the mediums they'll go, and you'll see now Lucas Blakely flash past on the outside, and he's going to come out at the tail end of that train. As you can see, there's maybe a move, there's nearly a move happening in front of us there. Paradzic wasn't quite able to do it on Karaton, had to fight it, wasn't quite able to do it, and Rasmussen comes out in front of Wilson Hughes, clean air in front of him, and has come out just behind Beresne, Paradzic and Karaton. And there was a move attempted by Paradzic there, but not quite able to do it on Karaton. So now I'm interested to see what Rasmussen can do on those mediums.
Yeah, once they get up to temperature, he's going to be closing at a rate of knots to the lead train at the moment, and Alvaro Karaton picks up a 3-second time penalty for an extension. I believe that was down at Degner too, and that is going to be detrimental to his finishing place in this Grand Prix. Given how close this grid has been so far today, it's really going to be a spanner in the works for him. As in the pit lane, Danny Moreno comes, and he's retired the car. He is out of this race. That makes it 2 DNFs today. Danny Moreno and John Evans not seeing the flag today. As in towards now the Casio triangle, Thomas Ronhaar comes. Will he decide to box this time by? One more lap he goes. Barry Borman decided to call it. He's into the pits. Jarno Opmeer staying up for one extra lap. Donoso into the pit lane. Jarno set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on 15-lap-old hard compound of tyres. And to all those people in the live chat saying that he's washed, saying that he's finished, that just proves that he's still got a lot more to show. He's the quickest man out on circuit at the moment, and he is still flying on those 15-lap-old hard tyres.
That's very impressive, I have to say, from Jarno Opmeer, continuing to show what he's capable of. As now they all peel out of the pit lane. You can see Rasmussen just about getting in front of Borman. He's undercut him. That's not what Barry Borman needed. So Rasmussen has managed to do the undercut on Barry Borman and comes out in front of him just about there. Wilson Hughes hounding the back of him now, and Sebastian Job is all over the rear of him as well. This is going to get very tight. It's come to the Dunlop curve. There's basically no space to overtake here, and Job needs to make these mediums where he's got a chance now up towards Degner 1. He's going to get the squeeze put on it by Wilson Hughes into Degner 1. That's an audacious move, and there's not enough space on the inside for him to work down. Crashing through comes Brendan Lee, and Wilson Hughes once again bullied off of the road. The big crash behind. Haddad's in the wall. Will that bring out the safety car?
Yes,
it does. Safety car is out, and that is exactly what Ronhaar and Opmeer needed, and a masterclass strategy from Marcel Kiefer puts him net P3 now.
Oh my word, Wilson Hughes, I think he's rejoined a bit sloppily there, and Daniele Haddad might have just panicked or something and spun the car. I mean, that is certainly one for the stewards to be looking at. This is played into the hands of Thomas Ronhaar, Jarno Opmeer and Marcel Kiefer absolutely perfectly. They're all getting the opportunity to come into the pit lane. I wouldn't be surprised if Lucas Blakely peels in. No, he's going to stay out on his hard compound of tyres. And this has certainly put another twist in the tail for this Japanese Grand Prix. Lucas Blakely is going to stay out in front, as is Alvaro Karaton and Tomek Paradzic. They're going to be able to stay ahead of all those that have boxed. Danny Beresne has been jumped by Thomas Ronhaar. Jarno Opmeer is now up into 6th. Freddie Rasmussen has now been jumped essentially in the box by Jarno Opmeer. Same goes for Barry Borman. And I think that's a slight stroke of luck that's gone his way.
That is very, very exciting. This has brought it right back into it. Now Thomas Ronhaar is in the box seat now, isn't he? He's fresh mediums, and he's managed to get out in front of Danny Beresne. That's what he needed to do, keep himself in there. But Jarno Opmeer now fresh medium tyres is now P6 in front of Rasmussen, and this has demoted Borman down to 8th place, so this has really not worked out for him. Marcel Kiefer has come from nowhere back into the top 10 once again with the Kiefer strats working out, hoping for that safety car, and it did come after Daniele Haddad's unfortunate incident, which sent him around into the barriers on the exit of Degner 2. And I'm looking, Joni Tormola, Fabrizio Donoso, Jake Benham have gone for soft tyres, Dan.
Yeah, I've just picked up on that. Something's gone wrong with Freddie Rasmussen.
Oh,
Rasmussen's round! Freddie Rasmussen's dropped it somewhere. I'm lost for words at the moment. Frederick Rasmussen has spun under safety car. There's been no penalty coming up for anyone, so the Dana's just dropped it himself. His race is in tatters now. He's completely binned it on his... He's gained.
Oh,
That's a bit questionable. He's got a 5-second penalty. For...
Surely not. Surely he's not taken the chicane under safety car. Surely not.
No.
I would hope
Freddie.
no. I would hope not. But Freddie Rasmussen, that's put a dent in his championship hopes, hasn't it? Dropping it under the safety car. This race has really thrown up some stuff today. I've never seen that before. Rasmussen, that is perhaps he spun it again. Right, well, I guess he's given up now under the safety car. Rasmussen, unfortunately, that's going to be probably a DNF for him at this rate, coming into the pit lane. That's unfortunately bringing what has been a great race so far. It's going to bring it to an end. Rasmussen is out, and obviously you can see Tormala, Weigang, Benham, they could pit on the softs. I don't think they actually meant to go on softs, but
Alvaro's off. Alvaro Carreton's gone off.
What's going on?
What? He's re-overtaking everybody, but I think he's already lost the places. I don't know if he can get those back. Alvaro Carreton has
by himself.
He's dropped it, because there's been no penalties coming up. So we've seen two separate instances of the top level drivers in the world dropping it on their own under safety car. Alvaro Carreton, at least he's been able to keep it going, and he's still in a somewhat decent position. But now in a sea of yellow medium tires on the set of the hards, he's going to be swallowed up by the pack. And well, PSGL really does provide some excitement for everyone tonight, and we have 4,114 viewers at the moment, and they're all getting to drink this in live, and I hope that you're all enjoying this stream today, because we certainly are. It's been so dramatic this evening, and this is the safety car brought out by a crash from Daniele Haddad has amplified that even more.
Certainly has. So I'm intrigued now, because we've got some drivers on mediums, some drivers on hards, and everybody else at the back. Yoni Tormala, Simon Weigang, Jake Benham, Fabrizio Donoso have decided, screw it, we're going on softs. We may as well try something. So they're going to fly through on those fresh softs. I'm going to cause a massive spanner, I would reckon, in the works here as we wait for the safety car to come in. There's no sign of it coming in just yet. Well, there it is. Right, that's a very late call for it to come in, I have to say. Coming up to the Casio Triangle. Well, now, this is not what Lucas Blakely needed. This could be... Oh, don't tell me Sebastian Job as well. Oh, no, he hasn't. All right, okay, he's kept it going. But that was a bit of a scary moment. Blakely now backing everybody up. Coming up to the line, gets on the power now. On towards turn one. Didn't really get away well. Here comes Ronar. Immediately on the attack in the Haas. Down towards turn one. Blakely immediately now trying to get away. Ronar tucked in behind. Paraj into towards turn one. Is there room? There's not. Well defended. Switches to the inside for turn two. Can't quite get up underneath him. Well defended by Tomek Paraj. A big moment on the exit for Ronar. But Blakely holds the lead. Paraj is now behind. But now here comes a freshly rejuvenated Jarno Watmir on the fresh medium tyres. Barry Burman behind him. The old rivals are back together in P5 and P6. This is going to be a climactic end to this Grand Prix.
Jarno Watmir now in 5th position, eliminated in Q2. Lady Luck has shone her grace on him today, and now he's into 5th position, the second medium runner at the moment, and he's all over the back of Danny Berejnay, headed up towards the hairpin. Will we see a Watmir dive bomb? Oh, he's tagged the back of Danny Berejnay. There was not quite the gap there. Now here comes Alvaro Carreton slipping through. He gets by on Burman. Can he try and send the move on Jarno Watmir? Headed down towards Spoon now. Alvaro all over the back of him. In towards the braking zone. There you go. Barry Burman as well is in this fight. Oh dear. He's gone off. Barry Burman has hit the rear of Alvaro Carreton. He's now gone off the circuit. Keeper's allowed to slip on through. Carreton relegated down now into 8th position. Brendan Lee has phased in very, very nicely indeed into this race. He's now into 9th position at the end of lap number 19. We still have 8 laps to go of this, Jack.
They've all got caught out by the difference in speed. There's going to be another incident behind. Nearly Wilson Hughes getting eaten up by everybody behind who's on fresher tyres behind. Now Simon Weigang's on the attack on the soft tyres down towards turn one. It's going to get very dicey. Here's the all for scrap position. Patrick Sipos is in the mix too as they head for turn one. Jarno Watmir now trying to get the move done on Berejnay. Does get it done this time on the inside of turn number one. Tagged the rear, thankfully. I'm happy for Danny that he managed to hang on to it and keep it in there on the hard tyres. They're all getting caught out out by the lack of pace compared to it. Otmir through to P4 now, but up front, it is lap 20 of 27. Thomas Ronar in P3, not able to get through just yet, but it is going to get very, very interesting behind. The softeners have made absolutely no progress, so it's not quite working out just yet as they all follow in a train behind, but as you can see, it's very difficult to overtake here. Now, Barry Borman on the attack on Berezne, big dive onto the inside. Has he made the corner? Berezne switches back on the inside, trying to get it done. That was a huge move from Barry Borman. He will make it work though on the outside line. He'll have the power, he'll have the overspeed to do it, and does get through. Marcel Kiefer has worked his way back through now to get on the back of Berezne. That was an audacious move, and Berezne was more than fair there to give him the room. He saw it coming, opened the door, and Borman is through to P5.
That was committed from Barry there, as now Danny Berezne is once again going to be overtaken in towards 130R. No point defending from Marcel Kiefer. Into 6th place goes the German driver, but we have to watch for Thomas Ronhaar. If he gets a good exit off of here, he could be all over the back of Tomek Paradzic, headed down in towards the first corner, using some of the battery. DRS once again enabled. We won't see this until next tour by Thomas Ronhaar, Jack. He is not pushing at the moment. He knows that he can bide his time, save these tyres, and be quicker towards the end of the race. Lucas Blakely and Tomek Paradzic are going to be drenched in sweat at the moment because they know that they've got a hungry Dutchman breathing down their necks, yet to score a win so far despite 3 pole positions to his name this season. He has got to win at some point, and what a race to do it at. Thomas Ronhaar in 3rd position. He's got Lucas Blakely and Tomek Paradzic in front of him, and you are all getting to watch it live for free on YouTube, on the PSGL YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe because action like this is weekly. You get to see this every single Wednesday night at 7 p.m. British summertime, and Jack, I am loving it.
Yeah, there's Simon Weigang moving past Wilson Hughes. Is this the race that Aston Martin scores points into 11th place and chasing after Sebastian Job? Now this gets interesting because Jarno Otmir now within the DRS range of Ronhaar as well. So this is going to get very tasty. The hard compound tyres will definitely hang on to the rest of the Grand Prix. The mediums may not. Here comes Ronhaar up towards 130R, closing in on Paradzic using the battery up towards the Casio triangle. Will he go for the move? Paradzic using the battery. Ronhaar looks, but is not going to go for the move if he doesn't feel he can make it. Being more than fair here is Thomas Ronhaar. Blakely still out in front though. The laps tick down and he needs to keep it that way. Paradzic now, does he fancy a move on Blakely down towards turn 1? No, he doesn't. Blakely defending that. Ronhaar not using his battery either, doesn't want to use up too much of it. And Otmir now trying to close in as well as they all concertina into turn 2. And this is now getting interesting. Ronhaar needs to use these tyres now. He needs to make good use of them. He's got a massive tyre advantage compared to them, but he's just struggling to get through in these sectors. The dirty air will be affecting him in a way as well. And Blakely still somehow hanging on to this race lead.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Ronhaar at this point, I think he's just playing with his food. He's tempting at a move and then just backing out towards the end, using his battery at some point and then lifting off to just keep them in check. We've got a spinner at the back. That's Patrick Sipos going off at Dunlop. He's by himself, so I believe he's just dropped that one on his own. But out of the hairpin now, Thomas Ronhaar is 3/10 behind Tomek Paradzic at this point, who is a further 3/10 behind Lucas Blakely on lap number 22. Next time by, it'll be 5 laps to go. When will these tyres swap in terms of pace? The hards are 8 and 9 laps old for the 2 leaders. Thomas Ronhaar has got 4 lap fresher tyres than Tomek Paradzic in front of him. Surely he'll have such an advantage that he can go for the move very soon, but he might need to watch in his mirrors because he's got Jarno Otmir in behind at this point, headed in towards the Casio triangle. Joni Tillman has made a move for now 13th position. Wilson Hughes has been swallowed up by the pack, and Jake Benham has picked up a time penalty as they head down the main straight now. Can Thomas Ronhaar close? No, he cannot. He's going to stay in behind for just at least 1 extra lap here.
Yeah, now remember, those mediums went about 15 odd laps, I think, from what we managed to remember. So there is still life in them, but as well, there could be a switch. The hards will become better at some point, but Ronhaar is being so patient here. But I'm keeping an eye because Paradzic is still hounding the back of Blakely here, saving up the ERS, and he could still be the dark horse for a victory here, but everyone is in the DRS train except Patrick Sipos. But the laps are ticking down, and the more they tick down, the more it's going the way of Lucas Blakely. This is what he needs in the championship. Remember, he needs to keep outscoring the man who is ahead of him in the championship, of course, which is Barry Borman, and this would give him a 10-point advantage in this race to bring the gap from 16 down to 6 going into the next round if it finishes the way it does right now, if Blakely manages to take the victory. So this would be a big win for him if he manages to convert it, but can he hang on for the rest of this Grand Prix? Ronhaar so close to Paragic through Spoon that time, using the battery, as is Paragic now, as they come down into 130R. There's still no gap for him to go through, though, in towards 130R. Paragic is starting to think about Ronhaar, though. He's getting closer and closer. This time he goes right onto both of them. Will he make the corner? No, he doesn't. He collects into the side of Blakely. Blakely has to take evasive action. Now, will that give Paragic an advantage here? That was probably, he missed his break point completely going into the corner there. Ronhaar now has thrown away the victory here, you would think, and Blakely has managed to survive an attack here, but now, box seat, Jarno Watmere P3 on the 7-lap old medium tyres, and Ronhaar, a bit of an audacious move, completely missed the braking point and falls down to P4, and I think he's managed to survive that without damage, and luckily they both carried on there.
Yeah, and I think this is just where veterancy beats out young talent. Thomas Ronhaar was a bit ambitious with that move there, and he missed his braking zone going for the move on Tomek Paragic, and then he's unfortunately hit Lucas Blakely, who was already turning in for the corner. He's lucky to escape that without any damage, and he could well have been sent completely spinning. So I think he is fortunate to still be in 4th position. He still has a chance at winning this race. If he and Jarno Watmere are able to overtake Lucas Blakely and Tomek Paragic, he's still in with a shot of overtaking his fellow countryman and trying to take victory today. But he really has made it harder for himself, and you have to think that pole conversion rate is going to stay at 0%, unfortunately, as now Jarno Watmere is the lead medium runner, and I think Barry Borman is going to have a bite at the cherry, because in towards 130R, he could be looking to the outside line of Thomas Ronhaar as they approach the corner at top speeds of 200 miles per hour. Borman to the outside, he's off the circuit now and headed in towards the Casio Triangle. He's kept it alongside, in towards now the braking zone, and through the corner, contact between the pair of them. Off the exit now, Barry Borman is ahead. Here comes Marcel Kiefer now in the fight for P4. At this point, Thomas Ronhaar now down into 6th position. Marcel to the outside of the first corner. Can he do it around the outside of the McLaren? It's actually Ronhaar back up the inside and into 5th position as they file in towards now the first sector. Kiefer has stayed ahead. Thomas Ronhaar down into 6th position, but on lap number 25, Barry Borman is ahead of Marcel Kiefer, and Thomas Ronhaar is sinking like a stone. He's now down into 6th place.
Oh, that's a shocker for him now. Berezny is now on the attack as well. He can't quite get through, though. But the crucial thing with that battle, Borman has lost DRS in the top 3 here. And Marcel Kiefer, what a stunning drive. That was brilliant driving from Kiefer to get through, using the opportunity that was presented to him up to P5. He comes now. And remember, he's up 6th place from where he started as well. Great drive from Marcel Kiefer once again, and is now back into that top 5. But they're running out of laps here, Dan. Blakely's still in this at the moment, but I tell you what, Jarno is on the attack. Look at him here, 0.2 of a second off the back of Paragic with 2 more laps. He's got loads of ERS to use as well. If this is the opportunity, it's coming soon. Paragic as well senses a chance at a first victory here as well. Blakely is under pressure. Berezny gets past Ronhaar as well. Are the mediums starting to fade a little bit as they come round to begin lap number 26 of 27. Borman has fallen 2 seconds behind the leaders here, but it is now a case Blakely versus Paragic versus Watmere for the win at Japan. Paragic now coming up towards turn 1. He won't quite have the overspeed here, but I think Jarno being very patient here, sitting back. Paragic nearly pushing Blakely through turn 1 and turn 2 right here. Blakely has, I tell you what, he's driving a stellar drive despite everything and continues to lead this Grand Prix, but will it be taken away from him at the last possible opportunity?
Well, we'll have to wait and see, as we're on lap number 26 of 27, the penultimate tour here in PSGL at Japan. Lucas Blakely has been leading this race since the very beginning. It'll be such a well-worked victory. Tomek Paragic, the young gun, the rookie in this F1 esports season next time by for Alfa Romeo, has had a fantastic drive, and Jarno Watmere has been able to climb way up the order. Let's have a look actually at how many positions each driver has gained. Jarno Watmere is up 9 places in this race. He has driven a superb race today. I mean, the safety car, yes, it did play into his favour, but you cannot deny how strong he has been. Marcel Kiefer, another driver who has driven fantastically. He's up into 5th place, up 6 positions from where he started. But we move away from that to look now on towards the final lap of this race, where you have to expect it all to kick off, because here comes Lucas Blakely, Tomek Paragic and Jarno Opmeer, the 3-time PC champion. Can he make a move in towards the first corner? It'll be a tough ask, but he has the battery advantage as he cruises towards the back of the Alfa Romeo car and towards the first corner to the outside line of Tomek Paragic. Here they go. Can he do this? Around the outside into turns 1 and 2. Opmeer, can he make this one stick? Tomek's keeping his nose in there, and he stayed ahead. Oh my! Tomek Paragic stays ahead of Jarno Opmeer. Marcel Kiefer has got by on Barry Burman. He's now up into 4th position, but high drama Jack now, because Jarno Opmeer might have missed his final opportunity to take the win in this race.
And that's surely now, but it's surely Lucas's race now, despite after all of that. That was brilliant defending. Paragic just gave him just enough room. There was nowhere for Opmeer to go, and that was surely now the straw that broke the camel's back. Blakely, I don't know how he's done this, but he's still in the lead of this Grand Prix, despite everything that was thrown at him. He's still managed to hang on and breaks out now. He's got the battery to use. 1 second he's brought it out to now, but I think Jarno might still have an opportunity on Paragic here. He's got the battery to maybe use this here. This could be a last ditch attempt for Opmeer to get P2 in this race and keep himself maybe just about in the title fight here. Up towards the final corner they'll go again. This has been a stunning Grand Prix, one of the best there has been so far. And Opmeer's now, here he comes, up towards the Casio triangle, late on the brakes, outside line for Opmeer. Has he done it? Yes, he has, into the final corner. Opmeer gets it, but Blakely, what a stunning win, wins the PSGL Japanese Grand Prix. Opmeer at the last corner takes P2 with a stunning overtake. Paragic takes 3rd, Marcel Kiefer 4th place. Barry has to settle for 5th. Beresne comes behind. Brendan Lee from absolutely nowhere, P7. Ronar down in 8th. And finally, Dan, Simon Weigang for Aston Martin gets a point on the board. What a Grand Prix, and what a performance. I have to say, Lucas Blakely's finest drive, despite everything that was thrown at him, he's come away with the victory and has brought the gap in the championship down to 6 points.
Oh my word. Wow, wow, wow. That's the only superlative I can think of at the moment. I mean, once we get into the intermission scene, you'll see the massive smiles that are plastered along both myself and Jack Canan's faces. I mean, what a race that we have witnessed tonight. Lucas Blakely, though, throughout all of it, kept his composure, and he did not fall to the pressures that we saw some other drivers fall to today. And he has had a well worked victory. We'll see him celebrate atop the podium. He brings that gap down to, I believe, 6 points it is, to his teammate Barry Boromand, who was able to finish in 5th position in this race. As there he is, Lucas Blakely exiting the he's coming out of the tunnel now and standing atop the podium. He can see Jarno Opmeer's in-game model, which is given to all of the F1 esports champions in the past. Tinitz has got one. Brendan Lee has one. Could we see in F1 23, could we see Lucas Blakely having his in-game portrait? And that would be something I love to see. It's a long road that he's got ahead of him, but he has started off strong.
He certainly has. Now, I'm going to defend my point here, Dan, because I've seen some people say that wasn't Lucas's finest drive. Have you seen what happened in that race? This man held on in a safety car on older hard tyres against newer mediums right behind him for 10 laps. So I'm saying that that's his finest drive so far this season. And also, Dan, is actually the gap is 5 points because he also got fastest lap right at the end as well on that one, wow. 30.2. So the gap is now 5 points going into the next round. That is a stunning drive from Lucas Blakely, and I will defend that point. Jarno Opmeer finishes P2. Tomek Paragic finishes on the podium in 3rd. And I'm sure, though, because of everything that's been going on today, the stewards are going to be busy.
The stewards are most certainly going to be very, very busy. We bring you back to the intermission scene where you can see our faces lit up with smiles at the moment after witnessing that. And hopefully all 5,000 341 of you that peaked in this stream enjoyed it as well. That was certainly one of the best races that I think I have ever commentated on, and I would really like to thank PSGL for allowing us to just experience something so special. And I think, Jack, you'll have the exact same point as me, but league racing has come such a long way from what we saw in season 28, season 27 and 28, when we first came to the PC platform. This has really been something special.
Yeah, it really has, and it's amazing to get these kind of races occasionally. I mean, some of the races have been more, I suppose, chilled out compared to that. That was one of the craziest races I think I've had in a long time, and it's great to see so many people enjoying that at home as well. But Stewart's room is going to be very busy today, for sure, just with everything that happened today. So the results, I should probably say this actually, results are provisional after that today.
Yes.
But provisionally, Lucas Blakely is out in front, and arguably he actually didn't do anything wrong. So I think if we can be sure of something, Lucas Blakely has definitely won this race for now. And we will see what happens behind. But for now, championship gap is 5 points. It came in at 16. So he was a full race behind coming into this one, and all it took was one Grand Prix, and now he's 5 points behind. 3 rounds to go. We have a championship on our hands.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's 2 drivers that, in their own rights, would be well deserving of winning the title in the end, and I would be happy to congratulate either Barry Burmand or Lucas Blakely. The pair of them, seemingly in PSGL this season, are just on another level. I mean, they're so far ahead in the constructors' fight. Red Bull are their nearest rivals, and they are way behind. And surely with just the consistency they're keeping up, that gap is going to keep on extending. I mean, it was 1st and 5th, and then 4th, and I don't think Freddie even got into the points. No, he retired. Of course, Freddie Rasmussen retired after spinning under the safety car twice. Really unfortunate for him this evening, and that could put to bed his championship hopes. I hope for his sake, though, he can come back into this and we could hopefully see maybe a 4-car battle for the championship at the end of this season. It's ambitious, but who knows in PSGL what can happen. Hopefully, Jack, now we can talk to some of our drivers. Can you check in the waiting room if we can pull in any of our... Oh, fantastic. Drag them in right now, and we'll head straight to the interview room, and we get to talk to both Jarno Otmir and Lucas Blakely. Good evening to you, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Evening.
All right, let's start off with Jarno today. Of course, qualifying didn't quite go your way. You were only starting in, I believe it was P12 after being eliminated in Q2. Talk us through what happened in that session.
Yeah, I think their setup had good pace, but it was just very hard to drive, which I think always was going to happen a little bit. Of course, we're focusing more on other tracks, not really just the league racing tracks. So yeah, the drivability was a bit off, and then Q1 was good, to be honest, but didn't really feel comfortable in Q1 or Q2 with the setup. But I think it had good pace. It was just a little bit off. And well, if P2 to P12 or 13 is within a tenth, then that's key. So.
Yeah, I don't think you can feel too bad about your qualifying performance, especially since you had a brilliant race today. Let's talk about the safety car coming out. You hadn't pitted at that point, and what was your immediate reaction when you saw at the top of your screen that the safety car had come out?
I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I was, of course, with my race engineer in a voice channel, and he told me to box lap 12, lap 13. And if I would have done that, then, of course, we would have been nowhere. But yeah, that's, of course, the risk you take by staying out longer, because obviously we would have lost a lot of track position if the safety car didn't come. Of course, undercut would have worked well, but I'm just a little bit lucky with staying out, taking that risk, always in the hope of that safety car, and it worked out this time. So, I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, and of course, it worked out very well in your favour, but that doesn't go without your individual talent and being able to climb up the order, and you were on track for a potential race win towards the end. On the final lap of the Grand Prix, we saw a tantalising battle between you and Tomek Paradzic, who finished second in this race. Do you think maybe one or two more laps you could have had them both?
Yeah, I think I just waited a little bit too long with the attack. And even if we would have had, I don't know, 2 laps, I don't think I would have got Lucas anyway. But yeah, I think I was a little bit too patient with making the move, and then my tires dropped off a little bit too much compared to theirs, and that made it harder. But of course, I had Thomas in the beginning ahead of me as well, so I couldn't really pounce as he had the same tires as me. So yeah, I think nonetheless, no matter what happened, when I would have passed them, I think Lucas would have still won, to be honest. So, yeah.
And after this race, you've been able to close the gap to Barry Boromand at the top of the order. And with 3 rounds left to go, do you think you still have a shot at this championship?
To be honest, no.
Oh, come on.
It's I don't know how many points I'm behind. I think I'm like 20 or 30 points behind. And of course, the point system works a bit different. So unless Lucas and Barry collide in one race and I manage to get the win, it is unlikely. Of course, I'm going to try and win every race, but it's not looking good at the moment. Let's keep it that way.
It's not looking good, Brev. But you know what? My attitude here is that never say never. I think if you keep producing races like this, I do believe that you still have a shot. So keep your head up, Jarno. Fantastic race today. We'll let you get away and enjoy that podium and the rest of your stream. And I'm sure that your Twitch chat is going absolutely wild at that one. So really well done today. And I hope we can see you in the commentary box for some interviews in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, that was Jarno Otmir, everyone, the man who finished in P3. He had some fantastic race on the medium compound of tyres towards the end, but he wasn't quite able to snatch the win from the man that we are talking to next. Lucas Blakely, can you hear us, my friend?
Indeed.
Okay, let's get this interview started. Of course, headed into qualifying, you were just 15 thousandths off the back of Thomas Ronhaar. And do you think that if there was just a slight improvement there, was there anything left on the track that you could have had?
Too much, sadly. I went into turn 1 and just completely understeered. And I was out of the exit of turn 1. I was 700ths down from my first lap. But then the rest of the lap was absolutely cracked. Like I friggin' I sent it a bit. And I was really annoyed to not get pole after. Yeah, I mean, it was my own mistake in turn 1, losing the amount of time I did in turn 1. But I knew I was in the fight for the race, and I'm just honestly that one felt good. I'm really happy with that. Just it was it looked straightforward at the beginning with getting away at the after a couple of laps, breaking away from Alvaro, and then building quite a good gap after the pit stops. I think I had like at least 3.5 seconds to the car behind, and I was just sort of managing everything I could, not taking any too many risks. But then I saw safety car came up, and I was like, right, okay, well, nothing I can really do. Just got to make sure I keep temperature on my tyres. I can't tell you how bloody hard that was. Literally, like, I swear 2 people spun on their safety car, and I don't even blame them. Like, it was really, really tricky to keep tyre temp. So that was the biggest challenge. I was pretty much convinced that Jarno and Thomas on the mediums were going to fly straight past with the temperature, but I think it was actually not as bad as I was expecting with the tyre warm up. So thankfully got enough temperature on the tyres, and then it was just about managing everything from the cars behind. I had Tomek following really closely behind, and he was always there, but I never felt, let's say, just like super under attack sort of thing. I felt like everything I'd done was with calculation. So, but yeah, GG to Jarno and Tomek as well on the podium. I think Jarno gained about 1,000 positions in that race, so fair play to him. And yeah, really happy with that one. It was a satisfying one to win, purely just because it was not like a straight point-to-point race. It was a bit of difficulty in there, but yeah, happy I made up for qualifying, and yeah, not bad.
Yeah, and of course, after this win, You are now well and truly back in the fight with Barry Burman. Coming into this race, it was 16 points the gap between the pair of you, and I believe now it might be just 5 points because you got the win and the fastest lap. So you should well and truly be in the fight, and if things come down to it, are you going to get your elbows out with your teammate?
I mean, he's my teammate in this league, so I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's all guns blazing. It's good. Yeah, I mean, it's been good fun racing him so far this season, and yeah, honestly, I mean, he's so quick, he's so hard to beat in general. So it's a pleasure to be going toe to toe with him, and he's he's ballistically quick. So yeah, I mean, I look forward to just same thing as all season. Like first 7 races, it's just been really enjoyable, and I hope we keep. I mean, it should be the same for the final 3. So should be good fun, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I haven't really. I knew the championship gap going into this race was like 16 points. I was like, well, I mean, I'll just turn up, do what I do, and what happens, happens sort of attitude. And that's exactly what I'll do for the rest of the season. Because at the end of the day, I think I can guarantee you Barry would say the same thing, is that as much as obviously we want to win on the day we're doing PSGL, the focus is, there's a much bigger picture at play here, that we are, that generally that all the esports drivers are wanting to work towards. So. Yeah, it's good fun though to do these races. It's always gets the adrenaline pumping, and it's certainly keeps you on your toes, put it that way.
Absolutely, and just a quick one as well, because there was a little bit of a debate at the end of the race between Jack here and the live chat, saying Jack thinks that this is one of your best races that you've ever driven. Do you agree with that?
It was, in terms of league races, it certainly wasn't one of my worst, put it that way. It was
back me up, Lucas.
Well, I mean, I went last to first last season, so it's quite hard to get better than that. I don't say that as like an arrogant brag. I say that as in like I find it hard. What's the next step up from that sort of thing? But I mean, no, it was certainly it was certainly going very well up until safety car. I mean, I have no idea why I pulled such a gap. Like I get told. I think I was on like 80% battery, and then my engineers came over the radio that Alva was flashing, and I was like, "You what?" Like, as in he'd ran out of energy. I was like, "How? What?" So I was completely shocked. So when I heard that, I just hit the afterburners and just tried to stretch away. And yeah, it always looks more sort of straightforward on the outside, but I mean, in the cockpit, it was very much. Yeah, managing risk. I mean, I was a bit silly and picked up 2 warnings from up to like lap 7, so I had to maybe leave a bit of margin. Oh man, I did leave a bit of margin just of safety netting to not do anything stupid. But I mean, I've done it. I've been in league racing and competing in an esports capacity for such a long time. So when I say such a long time, I mean it's not. Actually, I mean you get. I mean it's it's not been like that long, but it's you sort of know how to manage these things. Like if I have 2 warnings on lap on lap 2, let's say, I know how to manage it until the end of the race. It's psychological. You've just got to focus and not let yourself slip, and don't crack under the pressure. And that's what I've tried to maintain. And it's always, trust me when I say this, it's always much easier to talk about than it is to do. Much easier. I could sit here and tell you how X, Y, and Z works, but to do it is extremely difficult. So. Yeah, it was certainly a good race though. I enjoyed. I did feel like, especially in the early phases of the race, I was just sort of hammering it through. The medium stint I really enjoyed. Hard stint, I feel like it could have been maybe a little bit better, but I mean that was, I was a bit more managed with how I had to tactically play that one after safety car. So, yeah.
I think this is one of your better drives that at least I've commentated on, and I'm sure Jack can say the same. But we'll let you get away and enjoy your win, and hopefully later on in the season, with only 3 rounds left, we could be talking to you once again as a winner in PSGL. But for now, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely no problem. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see. Is it Monza next week?
It is Monza. I actually know.
There we go. There we go. I'm evolving as a racer. I actually knows what he's meant to do next. No, but honestly, thanks for having me. Hope everyone enjoyed the race. Everyone's up watching. Yeah, see you next week.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucas Blakely, for joining us in the commentary box to get his side of things. And thank you to Jan Ortmi as well for joining us. But Jack, that brings us to an end of a very eventful stream. And I think you actually got it right in your prediction, if I'm not mistaken, to who wins this race.
Oh, I actually did. I did say Lucas Blakely was going to win it. I'm surprised at myself again. But there you go. Yeah. So, but I said that because I was hoping that we would have a championship fight.
Yeah.
At the end. So we now have a 5-point deficit. Barry still leads the championship. Let's keep that in mind. Still leads it, despite probably it was still a great drive from Barry overall. But there's obviously some stewards inquiries to come, so the results could change even more. We could have a new championship leader depending on how things go. We never know how the result is going to be after the stewards. They're going to be busy this evening. But yeah, we're at Monza next week, which is going to be interesting with everything. We think DRS trains are bad around some tracks. This is going to be the king of DRS trains, but I'm looking forward to it. From what I remember, it was actually Nicholas Matteo, I think, was the last winner when I commentated over it was Nicholas Matteo. So be interested to see who comes out on top with that next week. But yeah, I'm excited. Championship fight is well and truly on, but it seems like I think McLaren basically have the constructors now, unless something terrible happens.
Unless they go the rest of the season just not finishing any races and not scoring points at all, I think they have won it. I'd say that's a very safe bet. But yeah, I think that brings us to the end of what has been a fantastic stream, and it was an honour to commentate over, and I hope that everyone enjoyed it this evening. We peaked at about 5,340 viewers or something, so those numbers are just insane. It's still very, very new to me, so I'm very, very thankful to PSGL for letting me come on here and commentate for you all on a Wednesday evening. Next week, we head to Monza with just 3 rounds left in this championship. It is going to be a fight between the McLarens. Barry Burman leading his teammate Lucas Blakely, and we'll see how this all unfolds as well. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, everyone, thank you very much for watching this evening, and we shall see you next time for Monza.
Broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega and Grid Rival, proudly supporting PSGL.